Chapter 153. Sun Jingyi. Lin, he ordered a glass of red wine, but didn't drink it. He put it on the table and looked at the people in the bar. He wasn't here to drink, but the waiters would definitely give him a hard time if he didn't order anything. "Hey, handsome, is there anyone here?" Lin, he asked as he watched Meng Yao and Yushu from the corner of his eyes. Someone walked over to Lin Yi's table all of a sudden. Lin Yi raised his head to see a 27 or 28-year-old, dressed elegantly. The light in the bar was dim, but one could still see the woman's good figure and perfect facial contours. This was undoubtedly a woman with a lot of money, and she was even more alluring and captivating compared to Meng Yao, Yushu, and Tang Yin. The woman's eyes flashed with cunningness, and one could tell that she was a veteran who frequented bars. Lin Yi, naturally, wasn't dumb enough to think that this beautiful woman had taken a liking to him. Not at the moment. Lin Yi said calmly as he moved his eyes away from the woman, not looking at her again. Sun Jingyi paused, not expecting Lin Yi to be this cold. She'd thought about it carefully before choosing Lin Yi as her target. As far as she was concerned, Lin Yi was one of the perverts who'd come here to hunt for beauties. His face looked a little young, and he didn't look like a veteran at all. Jingyi was confident that she'd be able to take him down with her charms. She'd be able to get him to run circles around her, and it'd be easy for him to do some things for her. But she didn't think that Lin Yi's attitude towards her would be so cold, as if he didn't see her as a threat at all. Sun Jingyi was a little annoyed. Did Lin Yi like that kind of immature woman? It wasn't too late, and there weren't many people in the bar. Lin Yi's table was a little far from the center of the stage, and it was one of the worst seats. Other than Meng Yao and Yushu's table, there weren't any other customers. Naturally, Sun Jingyi assumed that Lin Yi's target was Meng Yao and Yushu. She couldn't compare to two immature girls. Sun Jingyi's eyes were as sharp as a sun. Meng Yao and Yushu had changed their clothes, but she could still tell that they were young, probably in school. "Aren't you going to invite me to sit?" Sun Jingyi said with a smile as she held back her anger. "Ah." Lin Yi smiled faintly. "I don't own the bar. It's not like I can kick you out, right?" "Handsome, the way you talk is quite interesting." How could Sun Jingyi not hear the respectful tone in Lin Yi's words? But she still sat in front of Lin Yi. Time waits for no man, and it was really difficult for her to find a harmless-looking man like Lin Yi in this bar. She just got rid of one trouble, and another trouble came knocking on her door. "Handsome, your target is the two little beauties at that table, right?" When Sun Jingyi said that, she pouted at Meng Yao and Yushu. Lin Yi glanced at Sun Jingyi and didn't answer her question. "If you have something to say, just say it. I don't like to beat around the bush." "Huh." Sun Jingyi looked at Lin Yi in surprise. She didn't expect Lin Yi to see that she had something to do here, and she didn't just come here to sit. Sun Jingyi frowned slightly. She felt that Lin Yi wasn't as harmless as he looked on the surface. This person didn't seem to be that simple. Then, was it the right choice for her to choose him? "Handsome, can you do me a favor?" Sun Jingyi was already sitting here, and there was no other way. No matter whether choosing Lin Yi was the right choice or not, she could only bite the bullet and continue. "What's your name?" Lin Yi looked at Sun Jingyi and asked. "Me." Sun Jingyi didn't expect that the handsome guy in front of her didn't play by the rules at all. His answers were always irrelevant, and then he asked another question. "Sun Jingyi." Sun Jingyi hesitated and said her name. "Don't call me handsome. My name is Lin Yi." When Sun Jingyi was talking, Lin Yi kept looking at her eyes. If she was lying, Lin Yi would be able to detect it from the subtle fluctuations in her eyes. The reason why he asked Sun Jingyi's name was because he wanted to confirm whether the woman in front of him was trustworthy. If she was lying, Lin Yi wouldn't care how beautiful she was, and he would kick her out as soon as possible. Lin Yi didn't have the time to waste with this kind of bullshit. However, Sun Jingyi didn't lie, so Lin Yi naturally let the conversation continue. Sun Jingyi didn't expect Lin Yi to tell her his name so readily. While she was surprised, she was even more unable to see through the man in front of her. If she said that he was here to chase after women, it didn't seem like it. Could it be that he was deliberately pretending to be cool to attract their attention? Well, Lin Yi, how about doing me a favor? Sun Jingyi didn't care whether Lin Yi was really like this or pretending to be cool. It didn't matter. The important thing was to get through this. What favor? Lin Yi asked. Be my boyfriend, Sun Jingyi said. Lin Yi looked at Sun Jingyi up and down. Are you sick? Love at first sight? Sun Jingyi blushed and quickly added, It's temporary. Just for a while, okay? Oh, a shield? Why didn't you say so earlier? Lin Yi immediately understood Sun Jingyi's meaning. This wasn't the first time he had done something like this. The reason he was brought here by Chu First Miss was to be her shield, even though he hadn't really gotten into the role yet. I thought you were a love-struck fool. Sun Jingyi was speechless. Only the man in front of her could say such sarcasm. It turns out that women can get so angry when they are ignored. Sun Jingyi had the urge to kick Lin Yi to death. If not for the fact that time was tight and she needed Lin Yi's help, Sun Jingyi would have left long ago. And it's great that you understand. Cooperate with me later. Chapter 154. The professional shieldmen like this were usually very gentlemanly and polite, but there was a certain indifference in their attitude, purposely ignoring Sun Jingyi's charms in order to get her attention. But it was the first time she'd met a man like Lin Yi, who'd just exchanged a feast for money. This wasn't just putting on an act. It meant that Lin Yi didn't want to have anything to do with her in the first place. As far as he was concerned, a feast wasn't as good as money. Sun Jingyi was a little annoyed at the thought. Was there something wrong with this guy's brain? He only liked those two girls. She wasn't as good as they were. It was the first time Sun Jingyi had suffered such a blow. She was even regretting her decision to work with someone like this. Of course, Sun Jingyi said, forcing herself to remain calm. I'll give you 1,000 kwai if you succeed. What do you think? Deal. Lin Yi nodded. Wouldn't he be an idiot if he didn't take the money? Lin Yi, on the other hand, realized that he had the potential to be a shield. He could open a shield company if he lost his job, and he wouldn't have to starve to death. Meng Yao and Yushu, naturally, saw Sun Jingyi sitting down at Lin Yi's table. It was too noisy in the bar, and they couldn't hear what they were saying. Shu, what's this guy trying to do? Who's that woman? Meng Yao frowned as she glanced at Lin Yi's table. She had to admit that the woman was very attractive. Even Meng Yao was impressed by her attractiveness. I don't know, but it looks like she's trying to hit on Shield Bro. Yushu couldn't hear the conversation between Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi either. Miss? Meng Yao asked, taking a look at Sun Jingyi's temperament. She didn't seem like one of those prostitutes. Maybe. Yushu wasn't too sure either. Let's see, it looks pretty fun. Oh, look, there's a guy a little less handsome than Shield Bro coming over. Looks like he's looking for trouble. Meng Yao followed Yushu's gaze and saw a man walking towards Lin Yi. He's here. You must cooperate with me. Sun Jingyi looked at Lin Yi nervously. No problem. Lin Yi didn't care at all. Jin Yi, why did you come in while I was paying the fare? A handsome man in a high-end casual Armani suit said as he quickly walked over. Although the man's pace was very fast, he did not lose his gentlemanly demeanor. At first glance, one could tell that he was the kind of noble son who had a good upbringing. This kind of natural bearing was very difficult to cultivate. Of course, Lin Yi was an exception. He could pretend. During a mission, you had to blend in with different characters as fast as you could, and you had to do it flawlessly. Death was the only thing that awaited you otherwise. Lin Yi looked at the man indifferently, not saying a word. Sun Jingyi had already said that he didn't need to say anything. But there was one thing Sun Jingyi wasn't lying about. Her name was indeed Jean Yi. Qintian, didn't I tell you that my boyfriend is waiting for me here? What are you doing here? Sun Jingyi said with a slight frown. Jean Yi, I think you know what uncle and aunt mean. I came to Songshan to ask for their permission, and they asked me to come here to take care of you. The man called Qintian didn't get angry, not even looking at Linny. It was almost as if he was ignoring him. Qintian, I think you don't get it. I've made it very clear that I have a boyfriend. If it's just the care and concern of an older brother, I'll be more than happy to accept it. Sun Jingyi replied faintly. Let me introduce you. This is my boyfriend, Lin Yi. Jean Yi, I don't care if you had a boyfriend or not. I don't care about that. I've been studying abroad for so many years. You have the right to live your own life. Qintian said. But now, I hope that we can start anew. This is what my parents want, and what your parents want as well. I think you understand? Huh? That's funny. Sun Jingyi curled her lips. Qintian, don't you think that's funny? What does it have to do with me, whether you go abroad or not? Our families were family friends before you went abroad, and we're still siblings. What's the difference? Not to mention all this nonsense about starting anew. So, he's your boyfriend, Jean Yi. Qintian changed the topic to Lin Yi after seeing Sun Jingyi's attitude. If he hadn't brought up Lin Yi all of a sudden, people would have thought that he hadn't noticed Lin Yi's presence at all. Yes, Sun Jingyi nodded. You saw and believed me. Can you leave now? Ah. Qintian smiled and extended his hand to Lin Yi. Hello, brother. I'm Qintian. Lin Yi. Lin Yi reached his hand out and shook Qintian's hand. Just as he was about to let go, he felt a strong force clamping down on his palm. This Qintian really wasn't satisfied yet. He was looking for trouble. But Lin Yi didn't retaliate, letting him do as he pleased. Back when his Shifu made him punch trees with his bare hands, Lin Yi didn't feel any pain like this anymore. Plus, the art of dragon mastery had successfully broken through the first stage, and was now at the peak of the first stage. Breaking through and not breaking through were two completely different concepts. Lin Yi's entire body had changed noticeably, and his body's coordination had reached unprecedented perfection. If he'd been in the same situation as last time, he might have been able to handle it without getting injured. But that injury was mostly due to the nurse behind him, Guan Xan, as well as confusing the robbers. After all, how strong could a person who'd been shot be? As a result, the bones in Lin Yi's palm didn't hurt at all, even though Qintian's grip had changed the shape of his bones. His body's structure had changed, and the flexibility of his bones was different from a normal person's. Qintian had no choice but to let go after realizing that it didn't work. It wasn't like he'd be able to hold the guy's hand for too long. Of course, Qintian didn't think that it was completely ineffective. His family's martial arts were all focused on the hands, and while he didn't use any of his family's martial arts when he pinched Lin Yi, Qintian was very confident in his own hand strength. As far as he could see, it wasn't that Lin Yi didn't feel pain, but that he had a high tolerance level and was just pretending to be fine. He just didn't want to lose face in front of Sun Jingyi. Chapter 155. Treacherous One had to admit, Qintian was a treacherous person. He wanted to mess with Lin Yi, but he didn't want Sun Jingyi to see through him. He was the kind of person who was treacherous. You don't mind if I join you, do you? Qintian said, but he'd already pulled out a chair and sat next to Lin Yi and Sun Jingyi's table. It was a table for two, but an extra chair wasn't a problem. The atmosphere at the table grew a little awkward with Qintian's presence. Jingyi and Lin Yi didn't know each other in the first place, so she didn't dare say too much, afraid that Qintian would find out if she did. Qintian had wanted to mess with Lin Yi earlier but hadn't succeeded. He was a little annoyed that he'd kill him if Sun Jingyi wasn't here. Haha, where'd you get rich from, brother? Qintian found a topic to talk about, since no one was talking. He wanted to find out more about Lin Yi's background. Chintian was feeling really down today. He'd flown all the way to Songshan to be able to spend time with Sun Jingyi. But Sun Jingyi had used the excuse of having a boyfriend as soon as he'd suggested it. He'd thought that she was just brushing him off. And naturally, Chintian didn't believe her. He kept on trying to convince her. And Jingyi, on the other hand, told him that her boyfriend was waiting for her at the bar. She didn't think that Chintian would be so shameless as to follow her. Sun Jingyi had an idea in the heat of the moment, so she dragged Lin Yi along. Chintian hadn't been back in the country for long, so he didn't know much about Sun Jingyi's life in Songshan. He couldn't be sure that she had a boyfriend, so he could only investigate carefully. No need to get rich. Lin Yi's impression of Chintian had taken a nosedive. He hadn't wanted to get involved in his relationship with Sun Jingyi, but Lin Yi wasn't going to hold back now that the guy was trying to intimidate him. Don't need to get rich? Chintian didn't quite understand what Lin Yi meant by don't need to get rich. Did he mean that his family was rich and didn't need to earn money? The clothes he was wearing weren't too good either. They were all cheap street stalls. Could it be that this kid was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger? Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Wu Chintian, Jingyi's childhood friend. Chintian nodded to Lin Yi, extending his hand again. There's no need for a handshake. You almost killed me just now. Lin Yi had no intention of extending his hand this time. All right, you're done with your self-introduction. Can you go now? Do you know that you're blocking my view of the performance by sitting here? Sun Jingyi frowned at Lin Yi's words and glared at Chintian. Chintian was from House Wu, and he was known for his hand techniques. His iron hands were said to be from Shaolin's iron palm. Sun Jingyi knew the ins and outs of House Wu, and naturally knew how strong Chintian's hands were. She understood that Chintian had done something to his handshake after hearing what Lin Yi said. Motherf asterisk cur. How cunning! Chintian's face turned ugly and awkward. He cursed Lin Yi in his heart for being too cunning. He didn't say anything when he was being squeezed, acting like he could tolerate it. If he had yelled and screamed when he was being squeezed, even if Sun Jingyi knew that she had done something to him, she'd still lose some respect for Lin Yi. How could a weak man like him protect his woman? If he screamed and screamed at the slightest bit of pain, how could he entrust the rest of his life to her? But Lin Yi didn't. He'd tolerated it very naturally, and now he brought it up again. It was obvious that he was taking revenge, but Chintian couldn't do anything about it. He was the one who initiated the second handshake, and Lin Yi was the one who took advantage of it. If he took advantage of it again, Lin Yi wouldn't be an idiot. It was normal for him to reject it and mock him. This way, although Lin Yi exposed his actions, he did it using the second handshake as an excuse. He didn't have any intention of complaining at all. You must be joking, Mr. Lin. My hand strength might be a little too strong. I'm used to it, and I couldn't control it properly when shaking hands with normal people. Chintian's meaning was clear. Lin Yi was just a normal person, and he didn't deserve to be with Sun Jingyi. Oh, so that's how it is. Lin Yi nodded. It seems that I've misunderstood you, Mr. Wu. To apologize, I've decided to shake your hand again. With that, Lin Yi extended his hand. HM? Chintian paused. He didn't think that Lin Yi would agree to shake his hand again. What was going on? But no matter what, Lin Yi was already like this, and he couldn't lose face. He extended his hand as well and shook Lin Yi's hand. Ouch. Chintian felt an unparalleled pain from his hand. Looking at the smile on Lin Yi's face, Chintian knew that the kid had taken his revenge on him. Chintian was caught off guard when Lin Yi squeezed his hand, and he cried out subconsciously. How many years had it been since his hand was this painful? That was why Chintian cried out. Of course. He didn't think too much about it. He blamed the pain on Lin Yi's sudden counterattack, catching him off guard. That was why his hand hurt so much. He didn't think that a normal person, no matter how much strength he used, could pinch his hand like this. but the anger had already gotten to his head. He didn't think that he, the heir of House Wu's iron hand, would have his hand pinched by a nobody. This was a huge humiliation. Qin Tian was about to retaliate when Lin Yi let go of his hand, looking at him strangely. "What's wrong? Did I hurt you? I didn't use any strength." Sun Jingyi looked at Qin Tian with disdain. "What was this?" "Lin Yi said that he hurt his hand, and you cried out in surprise. Did you want me to think that Lin Yi hurt your hand as well?" But who would believe that? House Wu's iron hand was hurt by a normal person? Sun Jingyi didn't believe it. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that this Wu Qintian was a hypocrite. She didn't have much contact with him before, and she thought he was a polite person, treating him like an older brother. But ever since he started pursuing her, Jingyi found him more and more annoying. Fuck! Qintian really wanted to slap Lin Yi in the face. Wasn't this kid too much? Wu Qintian, don't you think that what you're doing is no different from a clown? Sun Jingyi frowned as she looked at Qintian. Uncle Wu will be very disappointed if he knows what you're doing. Chapter 156. Who the hell was this guy? Brother, you've got some tricks up your sleeve. Qintian patted Lin Yi on the shoulder. I've learned a lot from you, bro. We'll meet again in the future. Ha! Lin Yi looked at Qintian, a faint smile on his lips. I have a lot of tricks up my sleeves. You can take your time to see them. Sun Jingyi frowned at Qintian's actions. She wanted to warn Lin Yi, but she wasn't too sure. Considering the relationship between the Wu and Suns, Sun Jingyi couldn't just go against Qintian's face in public. If word got out to the elders, it'd look like she was helping an outsider. And so, Sun Jingyi was in a difficult position. He didn't want Lin Yi to lose anything, but he also wasn't sure if Qintian had done something to Lin Yi. Qintian himphed, naturally treating Lin Yi's words as mere pleasantries. He'd achieved his goal, and naturally wouldn't stay any longer. He quickly walked out of the bar, planning to get someone to investigate Lin Yi's background. He wanted to see who this kid was before making a decision. Qintian walked to the entrance of the bar and took out a wallet. He opened it and saw that there was only 800 and 1,000 kwai in it. There wasn't anything else, not even an ID. Fuck, what a poor bastard. Qintian cursed under his breath. He'd wanted to look at Lin Yi's ID and investigate his background from the address and number, but it seemed like he'd have to give up on that idea. This wallet was probably bought from a street stall for a few kwai, right? Qintian looked at the workmanship and material of the wallet, speechless. Why would Sun Jingyi like someone with a family like this? Are you kidding me? Could it be a temporary colleague or something like that? The wallet was, of course, Lin Yi's. Before Qintian left, he patted Lin Yi's shoulder and said a few pleasantries, taking the wallet with him as he spoke. With the Wu family's iron hands, stealing a wallet was a piece of cake. The Wu family trained in the speed of their hands, so petty theft was a piece of cake for them. It was even a little overkill. Here's your tip. Qintian took out a stack of money from Lin Yi's wallet and gave it to the doorman. Tip, I'm Lin Yi. Thank you, Brother Lin. Brother Lin, you're so generous. The bellboy was shocked as he took the tip from Qintian's hand. There were plenty of rich people here, and some of them tipped the bellboys as well. But 50 or 100 was already good enough. They weren't like the beer girls or the room princesses who tipped a lot, and they didn't get much at all. But Qintian gave him 1,800 in one go, and it was a lot, so the bellboy bowed to Qintian in gratitude. Kaka! Qintian felt a wave of satisfaction wash over him. Lin Yi, let's see how you pay later. You won't ask a woman to pay, will you? You'll lose face if you do that, Kaka! Thinking about how Lin Yi would lose face soon, Qintian's gloominess was swept away. He hummed a tune as he hailed a taxi. He just came to Songshan, and he didn't have a car yet, so he always took taxis. He threw Lin Yi's wallet on the ground. Naturally, he didn't care about such a small amount of money. He just wanted to make Lin Yi lose face. As for tipping it to the bellboy, it was just to satisfy his own sense of humor and disgust Lin Yi a little. After Qintian left, Sun Jingyi looked at Lin Yi apologetically. See if you lost anything. Lost something. Lin Yi looked at Sun Jingyi, thinking that this girl wasn't that bad after all. She knew to remind him, but he acted like he didn't know. What did you lose? Something like a wallet. Jingyi said, Wu Qintian's a little narrow-minded. He patted you a few times before he left, and I'm not sure if he did anything to you or not. Oh? Then why didn't you remind me before? Lin Yi smiled at Sun Jingyi. We're family friends. I couldn't say no to him in front of everyone, and it wouldn't be nice if my parents heard about it. Sun Jingyi was a little troubled. But it's okay. I'll compensate you for what you lost. Huh. Lin Yi felt that Sun Jingyi had a good heart. At least she was willing to take the loss. Aren't you afraid that I'll ask for too much? Sun Jingyi was a little embarrassed by Lin Yi's question. She was usually a strong woman, but today she lost again and again in front of Lin Yi. The main reason was that Sun Jingyi realized that Lin Yi seemed to ignore her charm. You don't seem like that kind of person. Sun Jingyi was only embarrassed for a moment, but she quickly recovered. Her big eyes sparkled as she looked at Lin Yi. It was very seductive. Congratulations, you guessed wrong. Lin Yi shrugged. Sun Jingyi was speechless. She really regretted her choice today. Could it be that she met someone even more difficult to deal with? But I didn't lose anything this time, so you don't have to compensate me. Lin Yi laughed and took out a high-end wallet. Someone exchanged a big wallet for a small wallet. TSK, there's even US dollars. That's a lot of money. Oh, what's this? ID? Wu Qintian? The photo looks like a funeral portrait. No wonder he's so unlucky. Sun Jingyi heard what Lin Yi said. She was about to say something when she saw him take out a wallet. When Lin Yi said that he exchanged a big wallet for a small wallet, Sun Jingyi felt that something was wrong. Then Lin Yi took out an ID and called out Wu Qintian's name. Sun Jingyi covered her mouth in shock and looked at Lin Yi in disbelief. He actually held Wu Qintian's wallet in his hand? When was it? Was it when Wu Qintian took his wallet? What kind of speed was that? She didn't even see it. What was even more unbelievable was that Wu Qintian didn't feel anything. If it was said that Wu Qintian took Lin Yi's wallet and Lin Yi didn't notice, Sun Jingyi would believe it. But if it was said that Lin Yi took Wu Qintian's wallet and Wu Qintian didn't notice, Sun Jingyi wouldn't believe it. House Wu's iron hands trained in speed. It wasn't a big deal for him to steal Lin Yi's wallet, but from what Lin Yi said, it seemed like he knew that Wu Qintian had taken his wallet, and he even took Wu Qintian's wallet. Sun Jingyi was speechless. Just who was this person sitting in front of her? Was he a normal person? Who are you? Sun Jingyi couldn't help but look Lin Yi in the eye. She regretted dragging Lin Yi into this. It seemed like Lin Yi wasn't someone who was easy to deal with. The guy had been pretending to be weak all this time. Chapter 157. The Great Bandit. Hey, handsome. Tell me, I'm really curious about you. Sun Jingyi said, gritting her teeth. Was he still thinking about that 1,000 kwai? She'd taken a peek at Qintian's wallet, and there were at least tens of thousands of USD and some RMB, but Sun Jingyi was really curious as to who Lin Yi was. She'd bumped into a really powerful person in the bar, one that was even more powerful than Qintian. The more Lin Yi didn't say, the more Sun Jingyi wanted to know. Sometimes a woman's curiosity was limitless. Lin Yi looked at the alluring Sun Jingyi, and he had to admit that Sun Jingyi had moved Lin Yi quite a bit. She was a femme fatale, but Lin Yi was sure that Sun Jingyi's mature charm was faked. A woman in her late 20s wasn't considered mature yet, and Sun Jingyi seemed to be dressing up maturely as well. It was still unknown if she was even in her late 20s. From the conversation between Sun Jingyi and Qintian, Lin Yi was sure that Sun Jingyi wasn't that old. Perhaps it was because she was in the workplace and she was purposely making herself look older. Do you usually talk to your boss and clients like this? Lin Yi asked, feeling a bit unnatural from Sun Jingyi's voice. Sun Jingyi blinked, blushing as she realized that she'd started acting like a spoiled brat. Every woman knew how to do that. And even if they didn't, there were a lot of them in the movies. But Sun Jingyi wasn't the type to do that, or else she wouldn't have dressed herself up like an experienced woman, acting like a spoiled brat to a client and getting some business done. Sun Jingyi didn't look like a spoiled brat, but this time Sun Jingyi was in a hurry to find out about Lin Yi. She'd unknowingly used this kind of tone. It made Sun Jingyi a bit embarrassed, but the lights in the bar were dim, and Lin Yi couldn't see her blush. Ahem. Handsome, do you think I'm that kind of person? Sun Jingyi saw Lin Yi naturally treating him as a prostitute. After all, Lin Yi didn't look that big, and she couldn't put up her guard against him. It doesn't seem like it, but it's hard to say, said Lin Yi bluntly. How about this, handsome? You tell your sister what you do. In the future, your sister will only talk to you like this, okay? Sun Jingyi wasn't usually such a person, but now she was particularly curious about Lin Yi. Moreover, Lin Yi's age shouldn't be very old. She would just treat it as coaxing a child. She wouldn't suffer a loss. Do you really want to know? Lin Yi looked at Sun Jingyi with a smile that wasn't a smile. Sun Jingyi nodded. Well, then I'll tell you. Don't tell anyone. Lin Yi restored a serious expression. I won't say it. Sun Jingyi nodded subconsciously. Actually, I'm a great thief. Lin Yi lowered his voice. I've already retired. Ugh. Sun Jingyi looked at Lin Yi incredulously. She felt that something was wrong. However, when she saw Lin Yi's serious look, it didn't seem like he was lying. She was a little skeptical. Really? But don't worry. I promised you that I won't tell anyone. And then you give me 1,000 yuan and then you can go. Lin Yi nodded. Sun Jingyi didn't break her promise. She took out her wallet, took out 10 bills and handed them to Lin Yi. Lin Yi didn't count them and took them directly. You don't want to leave me your phone number? Sun Jingyi saw that Lin Yi didn't speak after receiving the money. She was a little annoyed. Generally, men will take the initiative to ask for my phone number, right? Even if she didn't give it to him, he'd force his phone number to her. It seemed that her charm wasn't as attractive as those 2 young girls to Lin. 152 XXXX 1234. Lin Yi gave her his phone number. Remember to prepare the money before you call. The waiter was walking over when Lin Yi said that. He was about to put the chair Wu Qintian had moved over when he heard what Lin Yi said. He was speechless when he saw the stack of bills in Lin Yi's hand. So this guy was a pretty boy. He looked at Sun Jingyi and didn't know what to say. She was so pretty, did she have to do this? She just needed to wave her finger, and there would be countless men lining up. And she even had to spend money. Sun Jingyi blushed a little under the waiter's stare. She knew that he misunderstood. She glared at Lin Yi angrily and left in a hurry. Looking at that cocky expression on Lin Yi's face, the waiter thought to himself, did this guy have some sort of godly skill? She'd never been so embarrassed in front of a man, but today she'd fallen for a boy younger than her who didn't play by the rules. It made Sun Jingyi lose a lot of face, but no matter what, Lin Yi did help her get rid of Wu Qintian. Although it was only for a while, Qintian would come back in a few days. She'd still be able to hide for as long as she could. At that moment, a certain unlucky guy was sweating profusely as he flipped through his clothes. Wait a minute. He remembered that he'd brought his wallet with him when he left. Why was it gone? Do you have money or not? You look so refined. Are you trying to renege on your debt? The taxi driver said impatiently, Bro, I forgot my wallet. It's in the hotel room. I'll go get it and pay you later, okay? Qintian cursed his unluck. He wouldn't have given Lin Yi's money to the doorman if he knew this was going to happen. He could have just left 100 behind. Are you kidding me? You think you can come back after you go up? Where am I supposed to find you? The taxi driver didn't believe Chintian. Call your friend to send the money, or don't leave. Chintian was new to Songshan, and he didn't know anyone here. Who would he know? Bro, why don't you come with me upstairs to get the money? Come with you? Are you kidding me? What if someone ambushes me up there? The taxi driver wasn't stupid. Plus, it's forbidden to park here for long periods of time. What if the police come and give us a ticket? Don't waste time, call them now. All right. Chintian was speechless. He dialed Sun Jingyi's number. Jingyi's phone rang just as she walked out of the bar. She looked at the caller ID and saw that it was Wu Chintian. Sun Jingyi didn't expect this guy to call her so soon after she left. She hung up impatiently and saved the number Lin Yi gave her in her phone. Chapter 158. Why can't we? Jingyi, I took a taxi and forgot my wallet to pay the bill. Please save me, I'm in front of the hotel. Chintian said quickly, afraid that Sun Jingyi would hang up on him. Jingyi heard Chintian's words, and her heart almost bloomed with joy. You didn't bring your wallet? You didn't bring your wallet, did you? Your wallet is in Lin Yi's hands. But wasn't Lin Yi's wallet with Chintian? How could he not have the money to pay the bill? At that thought, Sun Jingyi pretended to be angry. Wu Chintian, stop acting like a clown. You took Lin Yi's wallet, didn't you? How could you not have the money to pay the bill? That money, I tipped it to the doorman. Chintian said, feeling wronged. Do you think I'd believe that? Sun Jingyi said, feeling good. Who told you to be so cocky? You're good now, aren't you? I'm busy. Bye. Sun Jingyi hung up without hesitation and turned off her phone, leaving Chintian to his own devices. Jingyi, Jingyi. Chintian called out a couple of times, but the phone was already hung up. He called again, only to hear a notification saying, the number you have dialed is currently unavailable. Chintian wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Master, bro, you saw it? My friend doesn't believe me. Chintian said bitterly, stop pretending. I don't even know if you called him or not. And you tipped him to the doorman. You're lying, keep lying. The taxi driver said with disdain. I've seen too many liars like you. Do you want to talk to the police? Don't. Bro, let me think about it. Chintian quickly waved his hands. It'd be too embarrassing if people knew that the young master of house who couldn't afford a taxi fare if he went to the police station for something like this. The only person he knew in Songjiang was Sun Jingyi. All of a sudden, Chintian remembered that his aunt and uncle seemed to have brought Grandpa here for treatment, but he'd just come back and didn't remember their phone number. It'd be embarrassing if he called home to ask about something like this with that in mind. Chintian could only say, Bro, look at this phone of mine. It's an iPhone 4 and it cost 4 to 5,000 when I bought it. Why don't I give it to you as a fare? Apple 4? The driver looked at Chintian's phone. Is this for real? Knockoffs are worth around 200 to 300 yuan. It's already pretty good if a second-hand one is worth a few dozen yuan. Bro, this is the real deal. Take a look if you don't believe me. Chintian said as he handed the phone to the driver. The taxi driver fiddled with it for a long time before nodding reluctantly. I'll believe you for the time being. That's all. You can go now. Chintian got out of the car with endless humiliation. When had he ever been so down and out? Fuck, it was all because of that Lin Yi bastard. He needed to investigate him and teach him a lesson. Some people were unlucky because of their own reasons, but they just had to put the blame on others. Chintian was one of those people. He felt that if it wasn't for Lin Yi, his relationship with Sun Jingyi wouldn't have been this stiff. And he wouldn't have forgotten to bring his wallet either. Wait, that's not right. He paid for the cab when he went to the bar, and his wallet was still there. Could it be that he forgot it in the cab? At first, Meng Yao was still bothered by the fact that Lin Yi was hitting on an adult. But when Chintian came, she started to see what was going on. Lin Yi was being used as a shield by that woman. Meng Yao breathed a sigh of relief, but at the same time, she was a little pissed off. What right did he have to do that? He was her shield, and now he was being used by another woman? What was going on? But Meng Yao couldn't do anything about it, and Yushu, on the other hand, looked like she was watching a good show. Meng Yao had no choice but to watch Lin Yi put on a show. She couldn't help but call Lin Yi a money grubber when she saw him take 1,000 kwai in the end. Yao Yao, I think Shield Bro's really good. Yushu was a lot more observant than Meng Yao. That wallet in his hand, he got it from that guy in the suit. Ow. Ow. Meng Yao was a little speechless. You're quite observant, aren't you? Tell him to hand it over when we get home and confiscate all his illegal earnings. All right. Yushu nodded in agreement. I'll leave it to you then. Meng Yao gave the task to Yushu after seeing how enthusiastic she was. Ah, Yushu blinked. I say, Yao Yao, we haven't ordered anything to drink yet. We were just watching the show. Maybe we should get something to drink first? Once again, Yushu used her specialty to change the topic. All right. Meng Yao, of course, knew what Yushu was thinking, but she was just saying it casually. Meng Yao didn't care about that little bit of money Lin Yi had. She only said that because she was angry at Lin Yi. She didn't forget to make some extra money while she was protecting herself at night. Yushu called the waiter over and ordered a couple of drinks from the menu. They were all weird names, and the two had never been to a bar before. They didn't know if the drinks were good or not. The waiter noted down the two's orders, hesitating for a moment. It was obvious that this was the two's first time at a bar, and they didn't know what to make of the drinks. Is there anything else? Yushu looked at the waiter, puzzled. Did they have to pay in advance here? Ladies, do you need someone to chat with you? The waiter could tell that it was the two's first time, so he decided to give it a try. After all, there were quite a lot of people who came to the bar looking for male attendants. No need. Sure. Between Yushu and Meng Yao, one of them saying no need, and the other saying okay, took the waitress by surprise. Yao Yao, you. Yushu looked at Meng Yao, not understanding why the girl was looking for someone to chat with. Wasn't that a duck? Get us a handsome one. Meng Yao ordered the waiter. All right, please wait a moment. The waiter nodded and retreated respectfully. He thought to himself, these two innocent girls really came for this. It seems like you really can't judge a book by its cover. Just like that pervert from before. And these two ladies. The waiter hated himself for not being handsome enough, or he'd have done it himself. Yao Yao, why did you call a handsome guy? Yushu was starting to panic after the waiter left. Yao Yao, you're not thinking of trying the special service, are you? You can't, you're still young. What if you bleed out? Chapter 159. Chapter 159. Confused Miss Ugh. Yushu realized that it was true after some thought. It seemed like Yao Yao was really jealous of Shield Bro. Why else would she come up with something like this? However, would this have any effect? Not long after, the waiter came over with a beautiful young man dressed in a creamy style. From the waiter's point of view, these girls did not like the kind of rough and fierce men. They all liked the more creamy, beautiful young men who had a bit of a Korean drama style. Excuse me, ladies, is this to your liking? The waiter asked in a low voice. Oh. Meng Yao was speechless. How could someone like that piss off Lin Yi? He wasn't even as good looking as Lin Yi. What kind of place was this? How embarrassing was it to be a gigolo with looks like this? No wonder that woman had gone to Lin Yi instead of the waiters. If you're satisfied, here's the price list. The waiter said as he handed Meng Yao a small piece of paper. All right, I got it. Meng Yao said, a little troubled as she pointed at the pretty boy. You sit there. With that, she sneaked a glance at Lin Yi. only to see Lin Yi still playing with the glass of red wine in his hand, as if nothing had happened. The handsome man was overjoyed today. He saw Meng Yao and Yushu in front of him. These two were one in 10,000 beauties. He couldn't believe that something as good as this would happen to him. And he couldn't help but feel excited. "Ladies, it looks like you're in school, right?" The pretty man saw that Meng Yao wasn't talking and thought that she was shy, so he spoke first. "Shut up. Will you die if you don't talk?" Meng Yao said, a little annoyed at Lin Yi's attitude. Why wasn't he reacting at all when she called him a gigolo? But what kind of reaction was he supposed to have? Meng Yao was at a loss for a moment. Yeah, she was the miss and he was her follower. He was only responsible for taking care of her studies, occasionally acting as her temporary bodyguard and shield. He didn't have the right to interfere with her private life. Why the hell did she care about what he thought? What was she trying to do by calling a handsome guy over? Piss off Linny? But why did she have to anger him? Who was he to her? Would he be angry at her for doing this? Had he lost his mind? He actually did such an idiotic thing. Even if she went to get a room with this handsome guy, Lin Yi would only follow them from a distance, right? Meng Yao felt a little discouraged at the thought. He was really too stupid. So stupid that it was a little ridiculous. Anger Lin Yi? Why did he have to anger him? While Meng Yao was hesitating, the pretty boy was feeling quite depressed as well. He thought that he'd be able to get his hands on the beauties tonight, not to mention not paying. He'd be more than happy to give him change. These two were the best. But before he could realize his plan, he was shocked by Meng Yao's fierce roar. He sat there obediently. He really wanted to get a room with these two girls right now. But they were in a bar, and he didn't dare do anything rash. He was only here to chat with them. The perverts in the bar were all heartbroken to see Meng Yao and Yushu calling a male escort over. They didn't think that these two were here for some excitement. If they'd known, they wouldn't have called a male escort over. They'd have done it themselves. Most of the perverts, especially the good-looking ones, were all thumping their chests and stomping their feet. Lin Yi looked at Meng Yao and Yushu, not knowing what they were up to, calling a male escort over. If that was the case, they might as well have called him over. He'd be able to earn some extra money. He'd just made 1,000 kwai with Sun Jingyi, and he'd even gotten himself a big wallet. It seemed like this profession had a lot of potential. Behind the bar counter, in a dark room, a man was quietly watching the activity in the bar, his eyes never leaving Meng Yao's table and Lin Yi's. Meng Yao called that duck. The man looked at the manager, Su Jiaonong, in disbelief. Yes, Tsihua bro. Su Jiaonong nodded carefully. I didn't think that Miss Chu would be into that sort of thing. No wonder she got herself a bodyguard. This man was the famous Tsihua of Songshan, known as Tsihua bro. He was a man who walked the line between black and white. However, anyone with a discerning eye would know that he was just a spokesperson, pushed to the front. The one with the real power was the person behind him. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for someone like Tsihua, who had no background and was even a released convict, to make a name for himself in Songjiang. Was a very difficult thing to do. If it weren't for the person behind him, the police would have had their eyes on him a long time ago. Looks like Miss Chu doesn't like that pretty boy that much, Tsihua said faintly as he watched Meng Yao ignore the male escort. Don't you see that table over there? That's Miss Chu's bodyguard. He's much better looking than that pretty boy. Should I get another one then? Jiaonong asked carefully. It's fine. They're probably just here for a taste. Tsihua thought lewdly. It seemed that this Meng Yao girl was quite the slut, having a man at home and coming out to mess around, even bringing a sugar daddy with her. What a pity for that man. What was that man's name again? Right, Lin Yi. It seemed like he'd have to have a good talk with him so that he wouldn't ruin his plans. Tsihua bro, what do we do now? Jiaonong didn't know how to respond to Tsihua bro's words. He didn't know much about the higher-ups, and all he had to do was follow Tsihua's orders. Let's go to Miss Chu's place and test out Lin Yi's skills. I'll show up after that, Tsihua said after some thought. All right. Jiaonong nodded and left. He was very familiar with this sort of thing. Meng Yao felt like an idiot. She didn't know what was wrong with her, ordering a duck. Her dad would be very, very disappointed in her if he knew about this. And Faubert and her classmates. How embarrassing. Meng Yao was pissed when she saw Lin having fun with the pretty girl. She'd nodded in agreement when the waitress asked, but it was too late for regrets now. Meng Yao had calmed down from her daze. Lin was only her follower. Why would he be angry? Why would she piss him off? Could it be that Shu was telling the truth? She liked Lin? How? How was that possible? Impossible. This guy was so annoying, and he was such a playboy. She'd be blind not to like him. Chapter 160. Chapter 160. The Waiting Man. Two beautiful ladies. May I have the honor of sitting here and treat you two to a drink? Meng Yao was lost in thought when she heard the voice beside her. She turned around to see a delicate man. Delicate meant that he was impeccable, and he didn't look like a pretty boy at all. The man had a nice body, tall and well-proportioned, with a handsome face that gave off a clean, classy feeling. He was wearing a casual suit, and the buttons on his shirt were unbuttoned naturally, giving off a cool vibe. Men like this could definitely be called lady killer. Meng Yao, however, wasn't interested in him at all. Her heart was in a mess, and now there was another troublemaker. She didn't know what to do with the gigolo from before. She rolled her eyes and pointed at the pretty boy. Don't you see that there's another man over there? Meng Yao's original intention was for the two to fight, but she didn't think that the pretty boy would stand up immediately after seeing the delicate guy, as if he was afraid of the delicate guy. He turned around and left without saying a word. Meng Yao was speechless. What kind of person was this? Wasn't he a little too cowardly? How could someone like this be a gigolo? Haha, miss, he's already given up his seat. The delicate guy smiled faintly as he sat down where the pretty boy had been. He raised his glass of red wine. Want to have a drink? Meng Yao wasn't an idiot. The pretty boy had given up his seat to the delicate guy like that, which meant that the delicate guy was a frequent visitor of this bar, and that the pretty boy knew him. The delicate guy clearly had some sort of power to him, or else the pretty boy wouldn't have turned around and left like that. She turned to Yushu, only to find that she was looking at her as well. It seemed that the two were thinking the same thing. This delicate guy wasn't easy to deal with. It was their first time at a bar, and they didn't want to cause any trouble. Pingzhan would definitely give them a scolding. I'm sorry we drove here. Meng Yao replied coldly, not wanting to talk to the delicate guy any longer. If he knew his place, he'd have left by now. Huh? Why didn't I see that? The delicate guy didn't seem to care about Meng Yao's displeasure at all. That man who left earlier, if I'm not mistaken, is one of the male attendants here? Meng Yao humphed when Yushu didn't say anything. This girl only knew how to go crazy with her at home, but when she was outside, she wouldn't make a sound when there was danger. Meng Yao was pissed off. I think the two ladies are here to seek excitement, right? The exquisite man was no longer as refined as before, and his words began to become explicit. Honest people don't resort to insinuations. Rather than spending money for excitement, why don't? Hee, I think I can satisfy your needs. What did you say? Meng Yao blushed. What did he mean? I'm still a virgin, okay? Excitement my ass. She turned her body to the side, thinking that coming to the bar was a mistake. Stop pretending. What's the point of pretending in front of me? The exquisite man said as he reached out his hand to touch Meng Yao's shoulder, wanting to kiss her. Meng Yao panicked a little as she dodged. Yushu didn't expect the delicate guy to make a move like that, either. She turned to look at Lin Yi. HM? Where was Lin Yi? Slap! The delicate guy's hand was caught in midair before it could even touch Meng Yao. That's right, stop pretending. Who sent you here? Tell the guy behind you to come out. Lin Yi said coldly as he grabbed the delicate guy's arm. The delicate guy had a delicate face, but he wasn't a pretty boy. On the contrary, he was very powerful. He was one of Tsihua's most trusted underlings, and his hands were stained with blood. Lin Yi could tell from the guy's aura, but normal people wouldn't be able to tell. This was also why Lin Yi grabbed the delicate guy as soon as he made his move. Who knew if he'd do anything to Meng Yao? The delicate guy's scalp went numb. He was talking nonsense to Meng Yao, but his eyes were on Lin Yi from the corner of his eyes. He'd noticed that Lin Yi didn't seem to care about what was going on here, and that was why he'd reached out to take advantage of Lin Yi. He didn't think that Lin Yi would appear behind him and grab his arm. The delicate guy was a master himself, and Lin Yi's speed allowed him to appear behind him without him noticing. This made the delicate guy break out in a cold sweat, fast. That was the delicate guy's only thought. He already had the strength of an early phase of the golden class, and compared to a normal person, he was much stronger. An early phase of the golden class already had the strength of a special ops soldier, but the delicate man could feel that Lin Yi's strength was above his. If he wasn't mistaken, Lin Yi should be at the middle phase of the golden class. Of course, this was just the delicate guy's guess. Lin Yi looked like he was just sitting there doing nothing, but in fact, he'd been on high alert since the beginning. They left the villa area, and when they turned the corner, a black Buick was following them from afar. The Buick's tracking skills were very good, but it couldn't hide from Lin Yi. This kind of tracking skill was good in the city, but it was useless in a battlefield. Of course, before the Buick did anything drastic, Lin Yi couldn't be bothered with it. It seemed like the Buick had been parked at the corner, waiting for an opportunity to follow them. There were 24-hour surveillance cameras in the villa area, so they could only stop at the corner of the villa area. When Yushu parked the car in front of the floating cloud bar, the Buick sped around the entrance without stopping. Lin Yi couldn't help but wonder. If these people were here to follow Meng Yao, then even if they didn't enter the bar, they should have parked their car near the bar, waiting for an opportunity to make their next move. But they didn't do that. Of course, Lin Yi didn't think that these people had nothing better to do, following them halfway and then going back. The only possibility was that they had people in the bar, and they didn't have to follow them anymore. But it was a bit of a coincidence that the bar Meng Yao and Yushu chose had their people in it. As a result, Lin Yi had been on high alert ever since he entered the bar. He didn't believe that the other party would let go of this opportunity so easily. He didn't want to use it to cause trouble. Chapter 161. Division of Strength. The reason why Lin Yi was so sure was simple. It didn't matter if the escort was a coward or not, or if he didn't want to piss off the exquisite man. He represented the bar, and he was a member of the bar. No matter how powerful the exquisite man was, he wouldn't disregard the bar's reputation and kick the escort out. At the very least, he'd have to give the escort some tips as compensation. But the escort didn't even say a word when he saw the exquisite man. He just stood up and left, meaning that the exquisite man was very likely a member of the bar. That was why the exquisite man left without hesitation. After confirming that, Lin Yi didn't bother playing tricks with the exquisite man. Beating him up was easy, but they were in the bar, and Lin Yi didn't want to use simple and violent methods to solve the problem. He could beat up one person or even a group of people, but that would expose his strength in front of everyone. It wouldn't be his full strength, but it would attract more attacks from the enemy. These people were different from Pin Liang and Zhou Ruoming at school. Lin Yi could tell that even Ping Zhan was wary of the people who were after Meng Yao. It wasn't just one person, but an entire organization. What was revealed now was only the tip of the iceberg. And so Lin Yi decided to expose the exquisite man's goal and let the mastermind come out and talk. That way he wouldn't have to expose his strength too early, and he'd be able to find out more about the enemy. Up until now, Lin Yi had only shown off his speed. He hadn't revealed his true strength when he blocked the shot in the bank or stole the gun from the car. Just now, when he grabbed the exquisite man's arm, Lin Yi had used a strength that was only slightly higher than the exquisite man's, giving him the wrong information. Nowadays, martial arts were divided into 4 levels: Sky, Earth, Mystic, and Yellow. Each level was further divided into early, mid, and late stages. In fact, this was also a general classification for the evaluation of strength. Different families trained in different techniques, and there might be some slight differences between 2 people who are both in the early phase of the golden class, but it might not be too big. This was what Lin Yi learned when he was in the special forces. But his old man and his master did not use this kind of ranking to determine strength. The old man paid particular attention to body refining, which was also commonly known as external martial arts. However, he used his own Chinese medicine to transform the body. His master, on the other hand, paid particular attention to assassination. Although he needed to train his body in the early stages, he mainly focused on sneak attacks and speed. With the old man's forging, Lin Yi's current strength was roughly on par with the peak of the late phase of the golden class. But with a sneak attack, he could still take out a mystic class master. Experts of this level were rare in the city, at least on the battlefield. Lin Yi had only met one expert of this level, and it was a foreigner. The art of dragon mastery that Lin Yi trained in was a bit like the internal martial arts that some families trained in. But so far, the first level didn't have much effect on his strength. Training in the art of dragon mastery only had the effect of cleansing and improving the body. Old Lin's Chinese medicine only changed the muscles and didn't have much effect on the organs. But the art of dragon mastery was different. It could transform the entire body. So far, Lin Yi only found out that the art of dragon mastery had an absolute advantage against fatigue. What he just found out was that the energy in the body could help those who were sick. Other than that, although the art of dragon mastery was magical, it was only the first level, and it didn't increase his strength that much. But there was an obvious improvement that surprised Lin Yi, and that was that Lin Yi could feel the energy waves from the exquisite man. This was something he'd never experienced before. He'd fought against golden class and even mystic class masters before, but he'd only be able to gauge his opponent's strength after the fight. But now that he'd mastered the first stage of the art of dragon mastery, he could actually feel the energy waves he'd absorbed from the delicate man's body. He should also be a practitioner of internal martial arts, but Lin Yi didn't know what kind of martial arts he was training in. The energy waves in his body were weaker than Lin Yi's, probably at the early phase of the golden class. So Lin Yi created the illusion that he was slightly stronger than him, making him think that he was at the peak of the early phase of the golden class, about to break through to the middle phase. Of course, there were exceptions. That Wu Qintian from before. Lin Yi could feel that he was a body practitioner, and his main focus was on his hands. But a body practitioner didn't have any energy waves, and Lin Yi couldn't tell his level. Or maybe Wu Qintian was too weak, so weak that the energy in his body was negligible. The exquisite man didn't think that Lin Yi would tell him that there was someone else behind him, and this completely messed up his plan. The exquisite man's original plan was to come here and mess with Meng Yao, piss them off, and then Lin Yi would definitely make a move. That way, he could get a feel of Lin Yi's strength, and if Lin Yi wasn't as strong as him, he would teach him a lesson, and then his boss would come out and take care of him. But now, the strength that Lin Yi displayed was no weaker than the exquisite man's. The two were probably on par, and Lin Yi might even be a little stronger. There was no point in testing him anymore. But Lin Yi asked his boss to come out, and the exquisite man couldn't make a decision yet. Just as he was hesitating, the phone on his waist rang. Fuck! Who was calling at this critical moment? The exquisite man wanted to curse. His arm was still in Lin Yi's grasp, and the two of them were at each other's throats, ready to fight at any moment. If he picked up the phone now, and Lin Yi played some dirty tricks on him, he'd be dead meat. The exquisite man didn't dare to be careless. Against a master like Lin Yi, he had no confidence in winning. Whoever was distracted or compromised first would be at a disadvantage. Pick up the phone. I think it must be the one behind you. Lin Yi smiled at the exquisite man and let go of his arm, as if he wasn't afraid that the exquisite man would go back on his word. The exquisite man didn't think that Lin Yi would let go of him so easily. He looked at Lin Yi deeply and took out his phone from his waist, but his eyes never left Lin Yi. Although Lin Yi was acting very magnanimous, the exquisite man's instincts told him that Lin Yi was a very bad and sinister person. Chapter 162. Chapter 162. Sorry, hello, boss. The delicate man didn't address Sihua bro directly, since he wasn't sure if his identity would be exposed to Lin Yi. Give the phone to Lin Yi, I'll talk to him. Sihua's voice sounded from the other side of the phone. Oh, all right. The delicate man paused before turning to Lin Yi. It's our boss. Can you answer it? Lin Yi smiled as he took the phone from the delicate man's hand. Go ahead. Lin Yi, right? Sihua wasn't expecting Lin Yi to be this bold, but he'd seen everything clearly from the surveillance cameras. Lin Yi's speed was indeed fast, and the delicate man's cautiousness told Sihua that Lin Yi was a master as well. As for how strong he really was, he wasn't sure. I'm Sihua. I'm sure you've heard of me before, right? Oh, I've heard of you a lot during the New Year. I've even heard of Two Kicks, Sky Monkey. Lin Yi said. Oh, in Malay. Oh. Sihua was speechless. Did this guy think he was a firecracker? Fuck, there weren't many people in Songshan who didn't know of his name. Sihua wanted to laugh, but it was a sarcastic laugh, of course. He wanted to laugh at this guy for not knowing how high the sky was and how deep the earth was. He was still in the mood to joke around after hearing his name. Was it because he was a newborn calf that wasn't afraid of tigers? Or was it because he was ignorant? Haha, you sure know how to joke, Mr. Lin. Sihua smiled faintly. Come in, let's talk. I'm sure you want to see me, right? Sorry, I don't have any plans. Lin Yi said. Come out if you want to see me. Don't hide. Huh? Sihua laughed once more. I know what you're worried about, Mr. Lin. You don't have to deny it. You're worried about Mingyao's safety, aren't you? Lin Yi didn't reply, but he had to admit that Sihua was right. Lin Yi wouldn't hesitate to climb a mountain of blades even if Sihua asked him to, but there were Mengyao and Yushu here. There was no way Lin Yi would leave them behind. You don't have to worry about that, Mr. Lin. There are some things that you can doubt or be certain about, but as long as you don't put it out in the open, no one in Songshan can do anything to me. Sihua said heroically. But if something were to happen to Mengyao in my bar, then even the people behind me wouldn't be able to save me. What's more, the other chick beside her was a prickly fellow. I don't want her brother to bring people to flatten this place. He had to admit that this Sihua had some guts. He'd basically made his intentions clear with his words. Naturally, Lin Yi knew of Tsihua's name. As soon as Tsihua said his name, Lin Yi immediately thought of the Tsihua bro that Baldy mentioned in the robber's car. If he wasn't mistaken, the two should be the same person. But judging from Tsihua's words, he'd already admitted that he was the one who did it, and he didn't seem to be afraid of Lin Yi finding out about it at all. It was enough to show how powerful his backer was. If Lin Yi wasn't wrong, it should be someone on the same level as Chu Pingzhan, if not stronger. At this point, Sihua had made his stance clear. It was time for Lin Yi to meet him. Lin Yi believed Sihua's word. They wouldn't dare do anything to Mengyao in this bar. After all, Songshan's public security wasn't that chaotic yet, and Sihua wouldn't be able to explain himself if something were to happen to Mengyao in the Floating Cloud bar. People who'd reached a certain level often cared about things like this. It was one thing if there was evidence, but it was another if there was no evidence. It didn't matter how things were done in the dark, but it was a different story if it was done on the surface. That being said, Lin Yi couldn't believe Tsihua's words completely. All right, I'll get someone to send Miss Chu back first, and then I'll head over. Haha, so you still don't believe me, Mr. Lin? I'm disappointed. Sihua naturally understood Lin Yi's worries. As far as I'm concerned, Mr. Lin, you're a genius. What you're doing is a loss for you. Think what you want. Lin Yi didn't want to waste time with him and hung up. Hello. 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 Fuck. Sihua was speechless when he realized that Lin Yi had already hung up. He'd only need to provoke a young man a couple of times to get him to give in. After all, young people cared about their face. Besides, he really didn't have any intentions towards Meng Yao, and it'd be hard for him to clear his name if something were to happen in the bar. He'd be in big trouble, and it'd even affect the mastermind's plans. But what he didn't expect was that Lin Yi didn't seem to care at all. He didn't care what Sihua said, hanging up the phone after saying that he didn't care what he said. It was a huge blow to Sihua's pride. Young people these days really didn't know their place. Sihua thought sympathetically. Lin Yi, huh? Everything would be fine if you cooperate with me. But if you don't, then I'm sorry. I wouldn't dare kill Meng Yao, but I'm sure no one would stand up for you if I kill a small bodyguard like you. Sihua thought. Lin Yi hung up and tossed the phone to the delicate man. Go back and tell your master that I'll be there in a bit. The delicate man had heard the conversation between Lin Yi and Sihua, so he didn't say anything after taking the phone. He left quietly. Meng Yao and Yushu knew that they'd gotten into trouble too. Meng Yao lowered her head, not daring to look at Lin Yi. She didn't know what was going on in her mind, but on the one hand, she hated Lin Yi a little, but on the other hand, she didn't hate him. I'll call Faubert and ask him to pick you guys up, Lin Yi said as he pulled out his phone to call Faubert. Lin Yi, can you not tell Faubert that we can go back by ourselves? We didn't drink, Meng Yao said, feeling a little guilty when she heard that Lin Yi wanted to talk to Faubert. Huh. Lin Yi smiled faintly. What happened today was no small matter, and there was no way he could hide it from Pingzhan. Lin Yi had to talk to Pingzhan about his meeting with Sihua, and so he couldn't fulfill Meng Yao's request. Chapter 163. Chapter 163. Lin Yi's golden finger Meng Yao wasn't an idiot. She thought that the exquisite man was here to take advantage of her, but after hearing the conversation between Lin Yi and the exquisite man, she understood that these people were here for her. Miss Chu, I have to be responsible for your safety, Lin Yi said solemnly, a complete change from his usual carefree attitude. I'll only be at ease if Faubert brings you back safely. But Meng Yao wasn't expecting Lin Yi to reject her so mercilessly after she'd apologized to himself. She felt a little embarrassed. This was the first time she'd lowered her head to him, and yet Meng Yao was a little pissed off, but she knew that Lin Yi was doing this for her and Shu's safety. She stomped her foot on the ground, but didn't say anything to make fun of Lin Yi. Meng Yao would have been pissed off if it had been any other time. She'd already lowered her head and apologized. What more did he want? Besides, it was all because of you. If it weren't for the fact that you were flirting with an auntie, would I even need a male escort? In Meng Yao's eyes, Sun Jingyi had turned into an auntie. Lin Yi had already called Faubert and told him the location, and Faubert said that he'd head over immediately. Yushu stuck her tongue out. Shield bro, it's actually my and Yao Yao's first time at a bar. There's something wrong with this bar. Let's go to another one next time. Lin Yi nodded, not saying anything. It was normal for Meng Yao and Yushu to come to a bar. It was rare for rich girls like them to come to a bar for the first time. Lin Yi was speechless about their weird behavior of calling a male escort over. In actuality, both Meng Yao and Yushu weren't bad people on the inside. Miss Chu had a bit of pride and self-esteem, cold on the outside but warm on the inside. Miss Chen was a troublemaker, but she was also very easygoing. After spending so much time with them, Lin Yi no longer felt conflicted and had to deal with them. Yushu blinked in surprise, blinking her eyes. Shield bro, you're not mad. You can come back again next time, as if he wasn't mad at all. Lin Yi asked, why should I be angry? Lin Yi smiled and said, you two go back and rest early. I still have something to take care of, so I might go back very late. Don't wait for me. Oh, be careful then. Yushu nodded. Meng Yao looked at Lin Yi and Yushu chatting casually, feeling a little bad in her heart. Why was it that Shu and Yushu's relationship was so harmonious? But there seemed to be something between her and Lin Yi. However, what did it matter whether he got along with her or not? He was the follower her dad hired, and even if they didn't get along, he still had to listen to her. Why should she feel bad? Faubert came very quickly, and he wasn't alone. There were a few people behind him, and it was obvious that they were all martial artists, but they were all physical practitioners. They weren't very strong, but they were enough to deal with normal people, but they weren't a match for that exquisite guy. Mr. Lin, sorry for the trouble. Faubert nodded to Lin Yi. Aren't you coming with us? I still have something to do here. Lin Yi said. Faubert, you can leave with them first. I'll talk to Uncle Chu about this when I have time. Okay. Faubert didn't say anything else and left the bar with Meng Yao and Yushu. In fact, he understood that Lin Yi wouldn't have asked him to leave with Meng Yao and Yushu if it wasn't something urgent. It was better for him to go back with them himself. Lin Yi was obviously in trouble, and Faubert couldn't ask if he didn't want to talk about it. Lin Yi watched Faubert and Meng Yao leave the bar before standing up and walking in the direction the exquisite guy went. He passed the bar counter and saw the exquisite guy and an average-looking man waiting there. Mr. Lin, I'm the manager of the bar, Su Jiaonong. I'm very sorry about what happened earlier. The average-looking man said when he saw Lin Yi. Cut the bullshit. Where's Zihua? Lin Yi cut him off. Lin Yi didn't want to listen to bullshit like that. Jiaonong's face reddened a little at Lin Yi's interruption, but he recovered quickly. Please follow me, Mr. Lin. The person in front of him was someone the boss wanted to hire, and Liao, the exquisite guy, had said that Lin Yi wasn't any weaker than him. Jiaonong didn't dare act rashly either. Lin Yi followed Jiaonong and Liao to an office, and Jiaonong knocked on the door. Zihua's voice came from within. Come in. Jiaonong opened the door and made a welcoming gesture. Please come in, Mr. Lin. The boss is waiting for you inside. Lin Yi walked in and saw a man with a big belly sitting in the room. Behind him was a skinny man who looked like a skeleton. He looked very average-looking, and no one would take a second look at him. He'd be lost in a crowd. But Lin Yi's expression froze. The energy waves coming from this skeletal man had already surpassed his own. It seemed like he was at the peak of the late phase of the golden class. Jiao Lao, I can feel the energy waves coming from them. Can they feel the energy waves coming from me? Lin Yi suddenly thought of an important question. Was this feeling mutual? I don't think so. Jiao Lao said faintly. The way he absorbs energy is different from you. It's called pure qi. Every type of training produces a different type of pure qi, and it can only be used by oneself. It can't be passed on to others. The energy in your body is universal. I understand now. That means that the energy in my body can be converted into the pure qi he needs. Is that right? Lin Yi asked. That's the theory. Jiao Lao said with a tone that said that the boy was worth teaching. That's why you can feel him, but he can't feel you. Lin Yi was pleasantly surprised at the answer. He was satisfied. It seemed like he could play the pig and eat the tiger from now on. He could see through the strength of others, but others couldn't see through him. It was like a cheat, running for his life when he saw that the opponent was too strong for him to win. Lin Yi's gaze lingered on the skeletal man for only a split second, and the man smiled faintly at Lin Yi. As far as he could see, Lin Yi was only at the peak of the early phase of the golden class. Normally speaking, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to see through his strength when he'd concealed his aura. Chapter 164. Who's stupid and naive? Have a seat, the pot-bellied man said as he looked at Lin Yi, assuming the posture of a superior. This person had to be Zihua. As he spoke, Lin Yi was carefully observing the man as well. Sihua's first impression on Lin Yi was that he was domineering. The arrogance and confidence of a superior was all there was to it. He had to admit that his public image was quite successful. This was the aura of a tyrant, after all. Someone with a weaker aura would have been cautious and fearful in front of him. But Lin Yi had seen his fair share of people with this aura. There weren't many of them left alive, and the ones that were hostile to him had all transmigrated or been reborn. Lin Yi didn't bother with Sihua at all as he walked around the office, glancing at the skeleton man. "Is this your sweetheart?" "Ow, ow." Sihua was speechless, his eyes wide. Why wasn't Lin Yi playing by the book? Sihua's original plan had been to get Lin Yi to sit down, then try to coerce him and see if he could win him over. If not, then he'd kill him. But Lin Yi didn't sit down at all, instead asking a question that infuriated Sihua. What kind of eyes was that? Did a sweetheart look like that? Sihua cleared his throat. "Mr. Lin, you don't seem to have very good eyesight. This is my secretary, a male secretary." "Oh, so that's what Sihua bro is into." Lin Yi nodded in realization. "I'm scared. I say, fatty, you're not trying to do something to me, are you?" "Fuck." Sihua was going crazy. He'd felt quite comfortable when Lin Yi called him Sihua bro earlier, thinking that the kid knew he was a bro after all. But the latter part of the sentence didn't feel quite right anymore. What did he mean by that? Sihua couldn't hold it in any longer and cursed at the sight of Sihua bro turning him into a fatty. "Hee, I'm just joking. Don't be angry." Lin Yi smiled as he sat down on the sofa in front of Sihua. Lin Yi had said those words on purpose to piss Sihua off and test his bottom line. It was only when Sihua lost his head that he'd be able to reveal more of his thoughts in the following conversation. Now that he'd achieved his goal, Lin Yi naturally didn't want to waste any more time with Sihua. Sihua frowned. "Mr. Lin, let's not beat around the bush since you're here. Just say what you want to say." Lin Yi had laid the groundwork for Sihua to get straight to the point so that he wouldn't beat around the bush. What he'd said before was a warning to Sihua that he was better at beating around the bush than Sihua was. "Nice," Sihua said. "Let's get straight to the point. Were you the one behind the bank kidnapping? Did I need to do that?" Lin Yi said, a little disdainful. "Those people were too trashy." "What? Were they your people?" Sihua nodded without hesitation, much to Lin Yi's surprise. "Indeed, I didn't take your existence into consideration, Mr. Lin. Sending those people was a mistake." "Oh. So you're saying that you're the mastermind behind the bank kidnapping?" Lin Yi found it odd that Sihua would admit that he was the mastermind. "I'm just one of the beneficiaries," Sihua said. "You don't need to know the specifics, Mr. Lin. The more you know, the faster you'll die." "Huh, are you trying to scare me?" Lin Yi didn't care about Sihua's threat. "Aren't you afraid that I'll report you to the police?" "Haha." Sihua looked at Lin Yi as if he were an idiot. "Naturally, I'm not afraid of you calling the police, since I've said it." "Is that so?" Lin Yi looked at Sihua with a smile that wasn't quite a smile. "You can try if you don't believe me," Sihua said with a wave of his hand. "Proof, no proof." "There's no proof, and I won't leave any evidence behind." "Lin Yi, I have to say that you're very naive and stupid. At our level, the only people who can get involved in a fight are the small fries. You think the police don't know what I'm doing? No, they do. They know better than you do. But they can't touch me. Why? Because they can't afford to offend the person behind me, and they don't have enough evidence to touch me. So you're saying that if I kill you, the police won't have any evidence and you'll die for nothing?" Lin Yi asked. "That's a funny analogy. But I can tell you that if you really kill me and you're smart enough to leave no evidence behind, no one will be able to do anything to you as long as you have Pingzhan behind you." Sihua said, "This is the rule of the upper class, and no one will break the rules." "I understand." Lin Yi nodded, cursing in his heart. "Fuck, Why are you smiling so happily? Killing you is like playing a game. But since you've said it like that, I can't kill you. The person behind you won't let this go easily. Lin, he was thinking about the bigger picture. And before Pingzhan launched an all-out attack, Lin, he wouldn't act rashly. Making a move against some of the more important people was fine, but killing them, it was too early. It's good that you understand this. Then, I won't talk nonsense with you, and won't beat around the bush. Sihua said, a wise man submits to the circumstances, and I'm sure Mr. Lin is aware of that. It's actually quite easy for us to take you out. Pingzhan might still have some sort of support for you when you're alive, but now that you're dead, do you think he'd stand up for a bodyguard or even his daughter's lover? He'd probably want you dead if he found out about you and his daughter, wouldn't he? Lin Yi looked at Sihua, who was spitting spittle all over the place. This guy was too perverted, thinking that his relationship with Meng Yao was too dirty and complicated. Did he look like someone who'd have an affair with a miss? Lin Yi looked at Sihua, who thought he knew the inside story. He was pitiful, sad, and stupid. People like him, who thought they knew the truth but didn't know anything, were the most stupid of people. What are you trying to say? Lin Yi didn't refute Sihua's words. He could misunderstand all he wanted, and it was even better that Sihua misunderstood his relationship with Meng Yao. Lin Yi would have more reasons to make a move against him in the future. You touch my woman, I'll touch your whole family. Cooperate with us. Sihua said confidently. Chapter 165. Threats and Counter-Threats. I'm just a spokesperson being pushed to the front, Sihua said, a little proud. You know my position and reputation in Songshan, right? From this, you can also see how powerful the boss behind me is. Bullshit, I can do that too. Lin Yi said, would you believe me if I told you that my master is the king of assassins in the world? Oh. Sihua naturally didn't believe him. He rolled his eyes. All right, let's not talk about that. Let's talk about you. Why are you with Meng Yao right now? Money, isn't it? As for her looks, haha, Meng Yao's really pretty, but that kind of young girl doesn't know how to serve people like a mature woman. What kind of woman can't you get with money? Huh? Lin Yi listened to Sihua continue. Let's talk about our partnership. Sihua said, our boss has never been short of money. If you work with us, you'll get more than just money. You'll get beauty, status, everything. Just like me. You think you're that great? Lin, he wanted to laugh, but couldn't. How sad, how sad. This guy was thinking that being a pawn was enough of a big deal. Lin, he couldn't be bothered to attack people like this anymore. How do we work together? Get me to help you? Or do you want me to spy on you? Lin, he asked. Anything, as long as you're willing. Sihua said, you're not any weaker than Liao, are you? Who's Liao? Lin, he didn't know the exquisite guy's name. The guy whose arm you grabbed earlier. Sihua explained. Ah, maybe. Lin, he didn't answer the question directly. You're one of the best in Songshan. I'm sure the boss will offer you a high price if you're willing to help me. Sihua said. Of course, you can continue being a spy by Meng Yao's side, enjoying your life of money and beauties. We'll also give you a portion of the money, and you'll be able to play a key role in a critical moment. That's a good idea, but it's very difficult to operate. Lin, he rejected the offer right away. First of all, I'm satisfied with my life right now. Pingzhan gave me quite a lot of money, and I have enough to spend. Secondly, I'm quite at ease right now, so I don't want to take the risk to do some difficult missions like lurking around. So, I'm sorry, but I won't accept your suggestion. Mr. Lin, I hope that you will consider it carefully before you speak. Sihua said, do you think you have a choice after what I've said? Are you threatening me? Lin, he raised his head to look at Sihua. You can think of it that way. Sihua smiled. You can think of it as a warning or a threat. Okay, I got it. Lin, he stood up. Is there anything else? If not, I'm going home to sleep. So, do you agree or not? Sihua asked. Or do you want to think about it? There's no need to think about it. I won't agree to it anyway. Lin Yi said. I've made myself very clear. We'll meet again. I hope you won't regret it if you haven't changed your mind when you walk out of this door. Sihua frowned. He didn't expect Lin Yi to be so stubborn. As far as he was concerned, Lin Yi must have been mesmerized by Meng Yao. Lin Yi must have been hinting at this when he said to go home to sleep. One had to admit that Sihua's thoughts were filthy and filthy. His mind was filled with obscene thoughts. Lin Yi pushed the door open and was about to leave when Sihua's face contorted. He'd asked Lin Yi to meet him because he was full of confidence, even going as far as to confess that he was the one behind the bank kidnapping. Sihua's goal was to get Lin Yi on his side. As far as he was concerned, everyone had their own value. As long as he could offer enough benefits, Lin Yi would definitely give up on Meng Yao and join his side. However, Lin Yi didn't even ask for the price. He rejected him directly. Sihua didn't know if he was overestimating Lin Yi or underestimating Lin Yi. Was he overestimating him, thinking that he was too loyal, or was he underestimating him, thinking that he was only after Meng Yao's beauty? If that's the case, Mr. Lin, take care of yourself. Sihua knew that there was no point in saying anything more at this point. He couldn't change Lin Yi's mind. He wouldn't be able to use this person anymore. I will, but I hope that you too. Sihua bro, don't do anything stupid. With that, Lin Yi pushed the door open and left Sihua's office. He'd basically figured out one thing now. The person who was after Pingzhan was the person behind Sihua. As for who that person was, Lin Yi didn't know yet. Sihua, on the other hand, was the one who had hired someone to do it. But judging from how confident he was right now, the police wouldn't be able to get any concrete evidence to do anything to Sihua. In other words, the police would at most catch the robbers, and the case would end there. Lin Yi wasn't someone who followed the rules, but Sihua hadn't crossed his bottom line yet. Pingzhan hadn't responded yet, so Lin Yi decided to let Sihua go for now. Making a move on Sihua was a piece of cake. As Sihua had said, he wouldn't leave any evidence if he killed him. At the door, Liao and Su Jianong didn't stop Lin Yi, allowing him to leave. They wouldn't do anything without Sihua's orders. Lin Yi walked out of the bar, got into Yushu's Yellow Beetle, and drove away from the floating cloud bar. Meng Yao's Audi S5 had already left, and Faubert must have asked someone to drive it back. Fuck, you dare threaten me? It was only after Lin Yi was out of the bar that Sihua waved to the skeleton man behind him. Zhonglong, you and Liao take care of this man. He'll be trouble sooner or later if he doesn't work for me. Yes. Zhonglong did not say much. He responded indifferently and walked out of the room. Zhonglong was the golden class, late phase peak master that Sihua's boss had assigned to him. He had a domineering name, Zhonglong, the same as Zhonglong and Zhao Hu from the 7 Heroes and 5 Righteous. Zhonglong didn't say anything, but he still felt that he could deal with Lin Yi alone. There was no need for Liao to go with him, but since he was under Sihua's command, Zhonglong agreed to it. With Zhonglong and Liao together, Liao naturally became the driver. It couldn't be helped, since Zhonglong was stronger than Liao. Chapter 166. A big gift. Lin Yi naturally didn't think that Sihua would just let things go like that. The jade on his neck started giving him a warning not long after. Lin Yi smiled faintly as he looked at the rearview mirror. It wasn't long before a Blackfin caught up to Lin Yi. It had just entered his line of sight and wasn't too close, but the jade's warning told Lin Yi that it was 100% certain that the van was after him. If it weren't for the jade, Lin Yi wouldn't have been able to determine if the van was after him or not. It would have taken him some time to determine if the van was after him or not. It was a cheat that saved Lin Yi a lot of precious time. It wasn't that useful in the city, but on the battlefield, A second's notice of an enemy's presence could be the difference between life and death. Lin Yi wasn't in a hurry to go home now that he was sure that the van was after him. He turned the steering wheel and drove away from the villa area. Lin Yi wasn't familiar with the map of Songshan, but he knew this road. Tang Yin's slums were right up ahead, and after that was the national highway that led to a forest. Lin Yi had passed by this place when he'd taken the train, and he'd had a deep impression of the place. "Long bro, that kid changed his way. Did he notice us?" Li Yao asked Zhang Long, who was beside him. "So what if he did?" Zhang Long said disdainfully, "He's going to die no matter what. Killing him is as easy as lifting a finger." Zhang Long had observed Lin Yi's strength before, and felt that he was far weaker than he was. Sihua sending Li Yao to kill Lin Yi with him felt like it was overkill, making a big fuss out of nothing. As far as Zhang Long was concerned, even Li Yao would be able to kill Lin Yi, let alone him. Sihua, on the other hand, was asking him to go with Li Yao. Wasn't he doubting his abilities? Or was he overestimating Lin Yi's strength? As a result, Zhang Long was very displeased. He had a high and mighty attitude when it came to Lin Yi, not even bothering to make a move. He'd let Li Yao do it later if he could. He didn't even bother. Li Yao, on the other hand, didn't think that Zhang Long was boasting. After all, Zhang Long's strength was clear for all to see. He was only an early phase golden class, while Li Yao was a late phase peak golden class. The difference was like heaven and earth. "Should we report this to Sihua Bro?" Li Yao asked. Sihua Bro didn't know any martial arts, but he was someone the boss valued. So Li Yao and Zhang Long had to listen to him. Zhang Long, on the other hand, didn't think too highly of Sihua. He would carry out Sihua's orders, but he looked down on him from the bottom of his heart. "It's fine. Sihua Bro only told us to kill Lin Yi. He didn't say how or where," Zhang Long said. "All right, I'll follow you." Li Yao nodded. After passing through the slums and out of Songshan, Lin Yi sped up. The beetle's performance wasn't bad. At least it was faster than the van behind. "Damn, this broken beetle is pretty fast. If I had known, I wouldn't have driven this van." Li Yao grumbled. He did not expect Lin Yi to change lanes at the last minute and head for the outskirts. If they were driving in the city, speed would not be much of an advantage. After all, there were many cars, but it was a different story once they were out of the city. "This kid wants to get rid of us." Zhang Long frowned. "I don't know, but our car is at a disadvantage. It won't be easy to catch up to him." Li Yao said, Zhang Long was about to say something when he saw Lin Yi's beetle parked on the side of the road. Lin Yi got out of the car and stood in the middle of the road, walking towards his car. "Fuck, what does he want? Ha! Is he announcing to us that he's discovered us and that he's going to stand in the middle of the road and talk to us?" Li Yao guessed. Asterisk. Zhang Long nodded after hearing Li Yao's explanation. This was the only explanation. Otherwise, who would be stupid enough to stand in the middle of the road and block a car? Wasn't he afraid of death? "Long bro, should we stop the car and talk to him?" Li Yao asked. "Stop the car? Stop my ass." Zhang Long smiled coldly. "Since this guy wants to die, then don't blame us for not holding back." "Long bro, you mean?" Li Yao paused, a little uncertain. "Just run him over and kill him." Zhang Long humphed, a mocking smile on his face. A golden class, early phase peak, dying in a car accident? TSK, what a tragedy. He won't be able to rest in peace. Ah. Li Yao understood what Zhang Long meant. Zhang Long's idea was too evil. Martial artists could die in battle, but they couldn't die in vain. If they died for no reason at all, they wouldn't be able to rest in peace. With his and Zhang Long's combined strength, it shouldn't be a difficult task to kill Lin Yi. However, Zhang Long didn't even bother to make a move. He just ordered Lin Yi to be smashed to death. If Lin Yi knew about this, he'd be crying. "Long bro, that's a sneaky move." Li Yao said as he sped up. "Don't speed up." Zhang Long waved his hand. How do I kill him if I don't speed up? Liao paused. Pretend to slow down and stop. Then, when you're about 20 meters away from him, suddenly accelerate and kill him. Hit him and catch him off guard. Zhanglong said, Don't underestimate him. He's a golden class, early phase peak. Let me ask you, if a car were to hit you, how confident would you be in dodging it? At least 80% if I knew beforehand. Liao nodded. But if I didn't know beforehand, it'd be troublesome if I was caught off guard. Long bro, you're still the most cautious. Of course, I have to confuse him if I want to kill him. Zhanglong said, it's funny when I think about it. A golden class master dying in a car accident. Sigh, life is unpredictable. Yeah, it's hilarious. Liao said, But this way, no one will suspect anything. The police will just think it was a traffic accident. The van slowed down as it neared Lin Yi and flashed its turn signal, giving off the impression that it was going to stop. Lin Yi stood in the middle of the road and watched the van approach with a smile on his face. Chapter 167. The two unlucky masters. Lin Yi would do things even if he didn't have any proof. Sihua would probably cry at that point, wouldn't he? Two golden class masters, dead just like that. How unlucky. The van suddenly accelerated 20 meters away from Lin Yi, and Lin Yi could even see Liao and Zhanglong's smug smiles on their faces. But from Lin Yi's point of view, those smiles were like blooming epiphyllum that would wither in an instant. Lin Yi smiled as well, but it was a very strange and meaningful one. What's the kid smiling about? Liao was a little confused as he stepped harder on the accelerator, but the pedal was already at its limit. There was no point in stepping any further. Who knows? Let's just run him over and find out. Zhanglong ordered Liao, feeling a little uncomfortable from Lin Yi's smile. Lin Yi didn't seem to notice Liao speeding up as he stood in the middle of the road like a warrior about to die. A smile appeared on Liao's face as he watched the van crash into Lin Yi, on the other hand, dodged to the right the moment the van came crashing down on him, landing beside Liao's driver's seat and kicking the van's left front tire. With a loud bang, the van's left tire exploded, and the car lost its balance as it spun to the left, making an arc in front of Lin Yi before crashing through the guardrail on the side of the national highway and falling into the mountain stream. Van flipped a few times in the air before landing at the bottom of the mountain stream, sparking with a loud bang. Lin Yi looked down the mountain stream and waited for a while. There was no one coming out of the van, and the van was burnt beyond recognition. It was only then that Lin Yi turned to leave. Of course, before he left, Lin Yi pushed back the sharp blade in his shoe. As strong as Lin Yi was, he didn't have the confidence to burst a moving tire with one kick, and even if the air leaked, he didn't have the confidence to make the tire deflate. So, using external force was the best way. Lin Yi always had a hidden blade in his shoes. He'd modified it on a whim when he watched Detective Conan. It wasn't very useful, but it could definitely come in handy under certain circumstances. Just now, for example, he'd only needed to stretch out his leg and have enough willpower to stabilize his body and leg, and the blade would have been enough to shred a spinning tire to pieces. Of course, he was the only one who dared to do something as dangerous as this. A normal person would have lost their footing and lost their footing in there. Two golden class masters, one early phase and one late phase peak. In Songshan, they'd be considered masters among masters. Wasn't it a little too much to lose their footing? Lin Yi sighed as he looked at the burnt van, shaking his head. He wondered how Sihua would feel if he knew that two of his golden class masters had died just like that. The most frustrating thing was that he couldn't prove that he was the one who did it, could he? It looked like a traffic accident. Was this what Sihua meant by a fight between the upper echelons? Even if Sihua knew that he did it, he couldn't prove it without any evidence. But even if Sihua did find Lin Yi, Lin Yi's going to tell him that he didn't know anything, and give Sihua the false impression that the two guys had a flat tire and fell off the cliff out of bad luck. It'd be frustrating, going for wool and coming home shorn. Sihua was the only one who could understand this feeling. Lin Yi turned around and walked to Yushu's beetle. He started the car and drove towards the villa area. This was a national highway with bad roads, and there weren't any streetlights at night. There weren't many cars passing by, and Lin Yi hadn't seen a single car for so long, so he wasn't worried that someone would notice. The lights were still on when Lin Yi got back to the villa. Lin Yi didn't park the car in Yushu's garage, but in Mingyao's yard instead. Lin Yi didn't have a car to drive, so he'd borrow Yushu's car for the time being. She wouldn't object to it anyway. The villa's gate opened, perhaps due to the sound of the car being parked. It wasn't Mingyao or Yushu, but Faubert. "Mr. Lin, you're back." Faubert nodded at Lin Yi. "Faubert, you're still here?" Lin Yi was a little puzzled. He'd gone to deal with 2 golden class masters, and it had taken him at least an hour to get to the middle of the national highway. Why hadn't Faubert returned yet? Under normal circumstances, Faubert would leave immediately after sending Meng Yao and Yushu to the villa. "Mr. Chu is here too. Please come in, Mr. Lin." Faubert said to Lin Yi. "Oh, Uncle Chu is here too?" Lin Yi didn't expect Pingzhan to come to the villa this late at night. Lin Yi followed Faubert into the villa and saw Meng Yao and Yushu sitting on the big sofa with their heads lowered like obedient babies. On the other side of the sofa, Pingzhan was lecturing them about something with a dark face. He only squeezed out a smile when he saw Lin Yi come in. "You're back. Please have a seat." Meng Yao looked at Lin Yi, feeling wronged. Yushu was right. Her father's attitude towards him was too good. It was a little too much. He didn't even treat her like this, scolding her when she came back, but Lin Yi came back with a face full of smiles. If she didn't know her father's character, she would have thought that Lin Yi was his bastard child. If it weren't for Lin Yi, would she have gone to drink in a bad mood? Besides, she didn't even drink a single sip. The difference between her and Lin Yi's treatment was like heaven and earth. She really didn't know what her father was thinking, treating a playboy like this so well. If she told her father about how he hooked up with other girls at school and in the bar, would her father still treat him like this? Of course, Meng Yao was just thinking about it. She couldn't say it out loud, and she was too embarrassed to say it out loud. "Lin Yi, you've worked hard. It's all thanks to you tonight." Pingzhan smiled at Lin Yi. "It's nothing, Uncle Chu." Lin Yi smiled. "I didn't do anything, actually. These 2 kids just don't listen. Old Chen gave his daughter to me, and I didn't take good care of her. She went out with Yao Yao to cause trouble." Pingzhan said, "If it weren't for you, who knows what would have happened." Chapter 168. An overbearing display. "Oh!" Pingzhan blinked, not expecting Lin Yi to speak up for Meng Yao and Yushu. Meng Yao raised her head to look at Lin Yi as well. From what she knew, Lin Yi wouldn't put in a good word for her even if he didn't hit her when she was down, would he? After all, her attitude towards him today had been really, really bad. "Things are a little weird today. Uncle Chu, maybe we can talk in my room?" Lin Yi didn't want Meng Yao and Yushu to know too much, and it wouldn't be a good thing for them to worry about. Pingzhan nodded before looking at Meng Yao and Yushu. "Yao Yao, Shu, you guys go upstairs and get some rest. We'll call it a day. I have something to talk to Yi about." "Oh." Meng Yao wasn't someone who didn't understand things. She could tell from Lin Yi's tone that Lin Yi had discovered something at the bar, probably something related to her father's competitor. Thinking back to Lin Yi's weird behavior at the bar, Meng Yao understood as well the person who'd been targeting her and Yushu earlier was probably doing it on purpose. Meng Yao pulled Yushu upstairs, and Lin Yi sat on the sofa Meng Yao and Yushu had been sitting on earlier. "Lin Yi, what's up?" Pingzhan gestured at Lin Yi. "Uncle Chu, have you heard of this Li Zihua?" Lin Yi didn't need to beat around the bush with Pingzhan. "Li Zihua." Pengzhan frowned. I know him. Safflower Real Estate, one of Pengzhan Industries' main competitors in Songshan. Ah, he's the one who did the bank kidnapping. Lin said. Him? A shocked expression appeared on Pengzhan's face. We're competitors, but we have connections in the city. Normally, we'd split the projects 50-50. What's the point of kidnapping Yao Yao? According to him, there's someone behind him, and he's just one of the stakeholders. He should have partners, Lin said. Pengzhan had heard that there was someone behind Sihua, but he didn't know who it was. In just over a decade, a person who had been released from prison managed to prosper and establish Safflower Holdings from scratch. There were also several hotels, bars, entertainment centers, and other industries under it. Such a scale was not something that could be achieved through hard work alone. Sihua, however, was only released in the late 90s and only entered the real estate business 2,000 years ago. Without a strong backer and support, the company wouldn't be what it was today. Sihua, on the other hand, was only released in the late 90s and only entered the real estate business 2,000 years ago. How did you find out about this? Pengzhan fell into deep thought. What Lin Yi had told him today was too shocking. He'd thought that the kidnapper was just one of the shareholders in the company, and he'd already had a suspect in mind. But now it seemed that there was more to it than meets the eye. Sihua told me that himself, Lin Yi said. He told you that himself? Pengzhan was in disbelief. He wants to rope me in, get me to work for him, or work as a spy for Miss Chu. Lin Yi said. Pengzhan nodded, not asking if Lin Yi had agreed to Sihua's suggestion. Since Lin Yi was telling him about it, it meant that Lin Yi had rejected Sihua's suggestion. I didn't think that he'd set his eyes on Pengzhan Industries as well. Pengzhan sighed deeply. I thought it was just an internal conflict, and I didn't do anything about it out of consideration for my father. But some people have started colluding with outsiders to attack Pengzhan Industries. I didn't expect it to be this complicated. Pengzhan's words were filled with helplessness and sorrow. Lin Yi could sense it, and he understood how he was feeling. He'd said it before, that most of the shareholders were the sons and nephews of Elder Chu's right-hand men. Do you need me to do anything? Lin Yi raised his head to look at Pengzhan. Sihua's background is very complicated, and he walks the line between black and white. I don't want to make him my enemy if it's not necessary, Pengzhan said helplessly. It looks like we'll have to start from within the company. Lil Yi, just protect Yao Yao and Shu. Leave these things to me. Uncle Chu, I can actually share some of the burden with you. Lin Yi smiled. Sihua, he'll come after us even if we don't provoke him, just like how he sent 2 masters after me when I rejected his suggestion. What? Sihua sent people after you? Pengzhan froze, looking at Lin Yi in shock. He didn't expect Sihua to make a move just like that. Sihua was a domineering man in the eyes of others, but Pengzhan hadn't interacted much with him. Pengzhan was a proper businessman, and he didn't dabble in crooked things. Yes, 2 golden class masters. Lin Yi didn't know if Pengzhan knew about the division of strength, but judging from his expression, he didn't seem to know. But there was a flash of emotion on Faubert's face. It was just a flash, and it was hard to notice if one didn't pay attention. But Lin Yi had been paying attention to Pengzhan and Faubert's expressions after he'd said that. From Faubert's expression, Lin Yi knew that Faubert knew something about the division of strength, but he didn't ask too many questions at this time. Then, did you lose them? Pengzhan looked at Lin Yi worriedly. I lured them to the national highway and used a little trick, but they fell for it. They drove straight into the mountain stream. Lin Yi shrugged. It's their bad luck. Dead. Pengzhan's eyes widened. There was no lack of life and death in the upper-class society, but Pengzhan rarely did things that went against his principles. He was shocked to hear that Lin Yi had lured 2 masters who wanted to kill him into the mountain stream. I'm afraid they won't make it. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Uncle Chu, I hope I didn't cause you any trouble. Trouble? Of course not. Pungjan recovered from the shock. Lin Yi had gotten into trouble because of his family. Even if the two men wanted to kill Lin Yi and Lin Yi had lured them into the ravine, he'd still think of a way to help Lin Yi get away with it. There's no evidence. Who can prove that you did it? Humph, it's not that easy to touch my men in Songshan. Chapter 169. Chapter 169. Shai Yushu Pingjan left with Faubert after understanding the situation. Lin Yi, on the other hand, was about to head back to his room to rest when Meng Yao and Yushu came downstairs. Shield bro, what were you guys talking about? Yushu was a curious baby. She'd been eavesdropping with Meng Yao, but didn't dare get too close for Pingjan to notice. Nothing, just some company stuff. Lin Yi said, Uncle Chu's competitor. Oh, Meng Yao wasn't interested in that. She was still too young and hadn't been exposed to the machinations of the business world. She was still a naive person. What she cared about was the real reason her dad had sent Lin Yi over to her. She wasn't interested, since it wasn't related to that. Shield bro, tell me the truth. Did Uncle Chu send you over to chase Yao Yao? Yushu didn't quite believe that Pingjan and Lin Yi were only talking about company stuff. Wah. Lin Yi looked at Yushu, stunned. Oh, it's nothing. Yushu was just trying to trick Lin Yi, but the look on his face told her that her guess was a little off. At the very least, he was as clueless as Meng Yao was. Lin Yi smiled bitterly as he rubbed his nose. Yushu's question was a little too ridiculous, wasn't it? Was there something wrong with Chu Pingjan's head? Sending him to chase his daughter? Was Meng Yao that ugly, or did she have some sort of disease that made him send someone to chase her? Yushu's imagination was really off the charts. Who knew what was going on in that little head of hers? Shu, what the hell are you talking about? Meng Yao's face reddened. Why don't you ask if my dad sent him to chase you? Why'd Uncle Chu send him to chase me? Yushu blinked. He's not that nosy, is he? Meng Yao rolled her eyes, pissed. Say another word and I'll tear your mouth apart. Oh, you can talk even if you're rotten. Unless you sew your mouth shut. Yao Yao, your logic isn't right. Yushu retorted. Meng Yao turned around and went upstairs. She couldn't afford to piss her off, but she could at least avoid her. Yao Yao, wait for me. Yushu turned around and ran after Meng Yao. Lin Yi looked at their backs and shook his head. Up until now, Lin Yi had never gone up to the second floor, so he didn't know what it was like upstairs. He suddenly remembered that he still had the keys to Yushu's villa. Shu. Shield bro, are you calling me? Yushu turned around and looked at Lin Yi, her mouth wide open. Uncle Chu, he didn't really send you after me, did he? Hi. Lin Yi almost fainted. I'm here to return your villa keys. Oh, the keys? Yushu was a little embarrassed. I was just joking. I know. Lin Yi nodded. When had Yushu ever told the truth? 9 out of 10 of her words were always jokes. That's good. Yushu breathed out in relief, her face a little flushed. She didn't know why she'd blurted out something like that, but it was lucky that she'd always put on a weird and crazy persona. It'd be so embarrassing if someone found out that she'd said the truth. Right, can I borrow the car for a few days? It'll be inconvenient for me to go out with you guys. Lin Yi asked. Go ahead, I'm not driving it anyway. Yushu said with a wave of her hand. I'll leave the villa keys with you. Don't you want a computer? Go get it when you're free. I'm sleepy, I'm going to bed. Bye-bye. Yushu felt that her face must be very red right now, like a crab with a fever. It was like a TV commercial from many years ago. What's wrong, bro? You got cooked? In fact, Yushu's face wasn't that obvious under the dim lights on the second floor, and Lin Yi didn't pay too much attention to it. Okay, I'll go get the computer tomorrow. Tang Yun and Xinwen walked out of the school with people pointing at them. Tang Yin was a little gloomy as she felt countless eyes staring at her from behind. Linny, I'm so pissed, Tang Yin thought. Yun Yin, I'll go back first. Xinwen and Tang Yin lived very close, but Tang Yin had to go to her mother's barbecue stall every night, so they didn't go home together. Okay, then be careful on your way back. Go visit Fun when you're free. Her emotions haven't been very stable these days. She didn't say anything when I went to her house during the weekend. Tang Yun said. Okay, I'll go visit her in a bit. Xinwen nodded. Tang Yun walked to the food street behind the school alone. Her mother was preparing to barbecue, and Tang Yun pouted as she took out the barbecue recipe Lin Yi gave her. Here, this is the recipe. Oh, you got the recipe? Mrs. Tang's face lit up as she took the recipe happily. In fact, after what Lin Yi said yesterday, Mrs. Tang wasn't sure if Lin Yi would really give her the recipe or not. After all, he might just be saying it casually. But she didn't think that Tang Yin would really bring it back today. This meant that the barbecue stall's business was going to be booming. Mrs. Tang was naturally happy. Did you thank him? Thank you. Tang Yin curled her lips. Thank him? Thank him for the love letter? Let the whole school know about it? Kid, did you thank him or not? Mrs. Tang shook her head helplessly. She knew that Tang Yin probably didn't thank Lin Yi just by looking at Tang Yin's expression. Her daughter was good at everything, but her personality was a bit arrogant and virtuous. If she'd been born in a rich family, that would have been great, but in this family, Mrs. Tang sighed inwardly. Tang Yin would understand the hardships of life when she was her age. Wasn't she as arrogant as her daughter? But the bitterness of life had worn away her edge and made her into a profiteer. I already said thank you, so thank you. Tang Yin twisted her body unnaturally. Mom, let me help you. No need. Let's close the stall earlier today and try out the recipe. I'm afraid that the condiment sellers won't be able to buy the ingredients if we wait any longer, Mrs. Tang said as she packed up the stall and prepared to go home. Tang Yin helplessly helped her mother. Why did her mother trust Lin Yi so much? What if this guy just wrote a random recipe? When the time came, it would taste terrible and waste the ingredients. Chapter 170. Chapter 170. Tang Yin's family Tang Yin went to the supermarket with her mother to buy condiments on the way home. It was just a test, so there was no need to go to the wholesale market. It wouldn't be too late to buy in bulk once the experiment was successful. Mrs. Tang excitedly started to marinate chicken wings and meat skewers according to Lin Yi's recipe. She even hummed a little tune as she looked forward to the future. If the barbecue stall's business could get better, the family's financial situation could be solved as well. Perhaps they'd be able to save enough money for her lover's surgery in the second half of the year. Even Tang Juqing, who was lying on the bed, found it strange that his wife was so happy today. Yin's mom, what's up with you today? Did something good happen? Tang Juqing lay in bed all day, bored out of his mind. He couldn't help his lover even if he wanted to, and there was nothing he could do other than sleep. Yin, I's classmate, gave me a barbecue recipe. If we can make it, our business will definitely be booming. Mrs. Tang said as she placed the marinated chicken wings and meat skewers into the fridge to freeze. Are you serious? That's great. Tang Juqing was happy to hear his wife's words. If it really works, then we'll have to thank that classmate. Your precious daughter is so noble and virtuous. That guy has feelings for her, but she ignored him. What a disgrace. Mrs. Tang was a little angry. If she finds someone like you in the future, let's see how she's going to survive. Mrs. Tang's words were harsh, but Juqing wasn't annoyed. He'd been lying in bed for half a year, and he'd understood everything. It was because of his incompetence that he'd dragged the two of them down. If he'd had some savings, he wouldn't have ended up like this. His wife's unwillingness to leave him made Juching feel guilty. At the same time, he hoped that his daughter wouldn't have to suffer like this in the future. This wasn't the life of a normal person. However, his wife's words worried Tang Juching. Is he the son of a rich family? Don't be like Xiao Fun's boyfriend, just playing around. I don't think so. Mrs. Tang said, that kid doesn't have the aura of a spoiled brat at all. I think he'll be good to our Een. The house wasn't big, and Tang Yin could hear her parents' conversation clearly. She was a little annoyed, wondering why her mother thought so highly of Lin Yi. This guy was bad, but didn't he have the air of a playboy? Sending Pin Liang flying with one kick. Was that considered a playboy? Tang Yin couldn't even focus on her studies with Lin Yi in mind. She'd only been reading for a while before getting irritated. She stood up and walked out of her room to see that her mother had already marinated the barbecue meat and was about to try it out. Mom, can I help you? Tang Yin couldn't read anymore. She needed something to do. Then can you skewer some chicken wings for me? I'll start the fire. Mrs. Tang put the bamboo skewers aside and went to start the fire. Oh, Tang Yin went to help her mother put the skewers on. She didn't know if it tasted good, but it smelled good. After a few skewers, Mrs. Tang started the fire. Tang Yin put the chicken wings on the barbecue rack and helped her mother fan the fire. It wasn't long before the aroma hit her face. Even Tang Yin, who didn't like meat, couldn't help but salivate. It seemed that Lin Yi wasn't lying. Tang Juching smelled the aroma as well. Yin's mom, this smells good. What? Are you hungry? Mrs. Tang hadn't tried it yet, but the aroma alone was enough to tell that it was good. If they roasted it in front of the school or at the food street, there would be a lot of customers. It'll be ready soon. You can try it first. Tang Juching was a little embarrassed. He was lying on the bed and couldn't do anything. The mother and daughter had good food, but they gave it to him first. This made Tang Juching feel very useless. If it wasn't for his deep relationship with his wife, Tang Juching knew that if anything happened to him, his wife would be very sad. He wanted to commit suicide. Don't be fooled by his wife's usual complaints, saying that she had made the wrong choice back then. However, she was still busy every day for the sake of the family, taking care of the family in good order. Een, give this chicken wing to your dad to try. Mrs. Tang passed a grilled chicken wing to Tang Yin, asking her to give it to Tang Juching. Tang Yin took the chicken wing and swallowed her saliva as she looked at the golden chicken wing. It smelled so good, but she couldn't bear to eat it. She ran to her father's bed and gave the chicken wing to Tang Juching. Eat it. How could Tang Juching not see Tang Yin's drooling face? 10 or 19 years old was the period of growth. Although Tang Juching usually ate some meat skewers that weren't too fresh, he was afraid that Tang Yin wouldn't be able to go to school the next day. This chicken wing was obviously marinated. It was very fresh. Tang Juching wanted to give it to his daughter. Dad, I'm not hungry. I'll get fat if I eat too much. Tang Yin shook her head. All right, you two stop fighting. Old Tang, hurry up and eat. It's almost done. Een, and I will eat this side. Mrs. Tang said with a smile. All right. Tang Juching nodded after hearing his wife's words. He took a bite and gave a thumbs up, you don't say. The taste is really unique. I think it will definitely be popular. At this time, the remaining chicken wings were done. Mrs. Tang gave Tang Yin a skewer and took one for herself. Although Tang Yin didn't want to admit it, she had to admit that the chicken wings this time were much better than the ones her mother made. It was no different from the time Xiaofin's boyfriend treated her, Xiaofin, and Lu Xinwen to a big restaurant. Een, what do you think? Mrs. Tang hadn't eaten yet, but seeing that Tang Yin was enjoying it, she felt that it was a success. It's okay, Tang Yin said against her will. She didn't want Lin Yi to be too proud, even though Lin Yi wasn't here. Mrs. Tang's eyes lit up after taking a bite. You child, this is okay? Is your taste too good? I don't think it's any different from the famous barbecue restaurants. I'll roast it like this from now on. I'll go to the wholesale market tomorrow to get some seasonings. It should sell better than before. Tang Yin had to admit that the taste was more attractive to customers. Although most students didn't really care about the taste, they just wanted to fill their stomachs. It was fine as long as it was better than the school cafeteria. But it was undeniable that delicious food would always attract more students. This weekend, invite Lin Yi and his classmate to our house. I'll treat them to barbecue to thank them. Mrs. Tang said happily. Of course. She didn't forget the person who dug the well. Chapter 171. Chapter 171. Threats Lin Yi was woken up by a ringtone early in the morning. Lin Yi had experienced the benefits of sleep these past couple of days. It was a great way to replenish energy. Hello. Lin Yi picked up the phone, still in a daze. Lin Yi. A familiar voice came from the other side. It's Ling Shan. Oh, Lioness, hello. Lin Yi said, still in a daze. What the hell? Lin Yi, what did you call me? Ling Shan exploded at Lin Yi's words. I dare you to say that again. Lin Yi had thought that Ling Shan was a bit violent, so he'd subconsciously given her the nickname Lioness. He hadn't called her that when he was awake, but now that he was in a daze, he blurted out what he was thinking. Ugh. I'm dreaming, fighting a lioness. Lin Yi said, a little embarrassed as he woke up. He couldn't say that out loud, even if he was thinking it. Humph. Ling Shan humphed coldly. She knew that Lin Yi was probably bullshitting, but she wasn't in the mood to argue with him. Do you have time? What for? Lin Yi asked. I'll go to your school later. Captain Yang told me to look for you, Ling Shan said. Help me solve this case. Ling Shan was at her wit's end. Searching in the forest was extremely difficult, and there were some dangerous areas that she couldn't send people in one by one. She dragged it out for a few days, and there was no progress at all. She remembered Huaijun's request and decided to give it a try. She called up Lin Yi. Truth be told, she wouldn't have called Lin Yi if it weren't for the fact that she trusted Huaijun as a brother. In her eyes, Lin Yi was just Mingyao's bodyguard. What could he possibly do? Huh. Lin Yi smiled faintly. Ling Shan had come to him after all. All right, but you'll have to help me get a day off first. I can't just skip class all the time, can I? Skipping classes all the time? I'll use you for one day, all right? Ling Shan said, pissed. What does it have to do with me when you skip classes all the time? Yesterday I skipped class because of Brother June, and today I skipped class because of you. Isn't it all your team's business? Lin Yi said. Brother June? Captain Yang? Ling Shan paused, not expecting Huaijun to talk to Lin Yi yesterday. Naturally, she didn't think that Lin Yi was making things up. There was no reason for Lin Yi to lie about something like this. She could verify it with a phone call. All right, I'll talk to your dean first. All right, wait for me at the food street next to school. There aren't many people there in the morning. Lin Yi said as he got out of bed, getting ready to get dressed. Lin Yi had planned to go to school with Meng Yao and Yushu today, since he'd been absent for the past couple of days. Jifeng wouldn't say anything about it, but he was still a student. He couldn't always get special treatment, could he? Meng Yao and Yushu hadn't really touched the food last night, and Lin Yi didn't feel like eating it. He'd just leave it for the two of them, and he'd ask Ling Shan for help later. She wouldn't be too stingy, would she? In fact, even if Ling Shan hadn't come to Lin Yi would have wanted to dig out the kidnappers anyway. There was no reason for him to spoil Tsihua now, since he'd already fallen out with him. He'd deal with these small fries first. He left a note for Meng Yao, telling her that he still had things to do today. Lin Yi then drove Yushu's yellow beetle out. He didn't know if Faubert had gotten his driver's license back yet, but he'd let Huaijun handle it himself. Faubert still needed to use his connections. As he drove past the slums, Lin Yi subconsciously slowed down. He saw Tang Yin standing in front of the bus stop, waiting for a bus. The little rascal who harassed Tang Yin yesterday was there as well. He was waving his arms and legs, excitedly talking to Tang Yin. There were a lot of people at the bus stop, so he didn't dare to make a move. Tang Yin's face was cold as she ignored him, but she couldn't stand the little hoodlum's nonsense. She felt uncomfortable. But didn't this kid learn his lesson yesterday? His butt doesn't hurt anymore? Lin Yi turned the steering wheel and slammed on the accelerator, rushing towards the little hoodlum. The tires made a sharp screeching sound as the car made a turn. Lin Yi stopped the car just as he was about to hit the little bastard. Lin Yi was able to control a car like this with ease. Ah! The people waiting at the bus stop jumped in fright, and Tang Yin, who was standing beside the hoodlum, paled. However, the one who was the most shocked was the hoodlum. He was sweating profusely as he looked at the car in front of him, not knowing what to do. After making sure that the car didn't do any damage to him, he jumped out and pointed at Lin Yi's seat. F***CK, your mother. Do you know how to drive? Do you have eyes growing on you? Get out of the car. Do you want to die? The little hoodlum's arrogant nature was showing again. With that, he reached for the door on Lin Yi's side. Li Erlin thought that the car wasn't bad. It was a Volkswagen Beetle, and it should cost at least 200,000, right? He had to make the driver pay him at least 3,000 or 5,000. Lin Yi's car door was locked, and Erlin, naturally, couldn't pull it open. He was about to give up when Lin Yi opened the door abruptly and pushed it outwards, causing Erlin to stumble and fall to the ground on his butt. The injury from yesterday was aggravated, and he started wailing as he clutched his butt. You haven't healed yet, have you? I thought you'd forget the pain now that it's healed. Didn't you learn your lesson from that trapeze on the bus yesterday? Lin Yi was being domineering. You were the one from yesterday. Li Erlin understood immediately after hearing Lin Yi's words. No wonder the kid suddenly drove over. It was him yesterday. Ha, you're not stupid. You're just a little dumb. Lin Yi looked at Li Erlin coldly. Stay away from Tang Yin in the future. You won't be so lucky the next time I see you. After all, the whole school knew that Tang Yin was his girlfriend. It didn't matter if it was true or not. He couldn't just ignore Tang Yin's situation. Actually, Lin Yi would still care about Tang Yin's situation even without this incident. Chapter 172. Rumors confirmed Tang Yin's face paled at Erlin's words. She lowered her head and gritted her teeth. A murderous glint flashed in Lin Yi's eyes. If it weren't for this occasion and his identity, Li Erlin would have been a corpse by now. He looked at Erlin coldly. Don't give me a reason to touch you. Take care. With that, Lin Yi grabbed Tang Yin's hand. Get in the car. Ah, okay. Tang Yin's heart was a mess. She was panicking at Lin Yi's sudden appearance, but also feeling helpless and nervous at Erlin's words. She didn't know what to do when Lin Yi grabbed her hand like that. She didn't even think about resisting before getting pushed into the passenger seat by Lin Yi. Lin Yi got in the car and drove off after helping Tang Yin settle down. Erlin stared at Lin Yi's car as it drove off. Driving a sissy's car. What's with the act? Just you wait and see. Erlin didn't dare do anything to Lin Yi back at the bus stop. The fact that Lin Yi had thrown him out of the bus yesterday had shaken him quite a bit. At the very least, he could tell that Lin Yi was quite strong, and his butt was still injured. He'd be at a disadvantage if he fought with Lin Yi. But Erlin wasn't going to let it go just like that. Those words weren't just to scare Lin Yi. There was a reason behind it. Could Lin Yi protect Tang Yin all the time? Plus, it wasn't like he didn't have a backer. He'd just tell Master Bing about it, and Lin Yi would be dead. Cursing his bad luck, Erlin stood up and looked at the crowd laughing at him. What the hell are you looking at? Go do whatever you're supposed to be doing. Hearing Lee Erlin's words, the crowd laughed even louder. Someone even whispered, I just want to see your butt split open. Although Lee Erlin was a gangster from Shantytown, he didn't dare to go against so many people. He could only walk away with a red face. The car drove for a while before Tang Yun came back to her senses. How did she get in the car? And Lin Yi was holding her hand. What the hell had she done? Her mind was in a mess at the time, so she was pushed into the car by Lin Yi. She didn't realize anything was wrong until now. Ah, stop the car. Tang Yun raised her head and looked at Lin Yi helplessly. Her face was red. Why did she get in his car? Now, if someone saw it, wouldn't the rumor become true? Indeed, the rumors had become true. Lu Xinwen was about to call out to Tang Yun when Lin Yi grabbed her hand and got on the car. Xinwen opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Tang Yun was already in Lin Yi's car, disappearing from her sight. That Yun girl, how dare she lie to me? She's already in Lin Yi's car, and she's still saying it's nothing. Xinwen stomped her feet. What should we do? Does she not remember Xiao Fun's lesson? She was fuming with anger when she saw Erlin limping towards her. Xinwen knew very well that Erlin liked Tang Yun. With Xinwen by Tang Yun's side, Erlin didn't dare to go overboard. What kind of person was Lu Xinwen? She was someone who could chop people with a kitchen knife. She didn't care about her own life. Erlin didn't want to mess with someone like that. Lee Erlin, why are you twisting around? Are you itching for a beating? Do you want me to loosen it for you? Xinwen vented her anger on Erlin. No. When I fell and I can't walk properly. Erlin quickly shook his head. He couldn't afford to mess with this woman. Erlin felt that he was so unlucky. Not only did he get bullied by Lin Yi, but he also got scolded by Xinwen. He had to tell Master Bing about this, and let him know how powerful he was. As for Xinwen, he wouldn't be afraid of her after he built a good relationship with Master Bing. Stop the car? You're not going to school? Lin Yi asked as he looked at Tang Yun, who was looking around anxiously. I'm going to school, but put me down. What if someone sees me? Tang Yun was panicking, but she didn't dare move. How could she open the door on a speeding car? I have something to do in the morning, so I won't be going to school. I'll drop you off at the food street later, Lin Yi smiled. Is that okay now? You. Why are you like this? Tang Yun wanted to refute, but couldn't find a reason. She could only glare at Lin Yi. Ever since she met Lin Yi, their relationship had become complicated. Believe it or not, I just happened to pass by. Lin Yi shrugged innocently. Tang Yun didn't believe him. How could there be such a coincidence? They met yesterday and they met again today. But Tang Yun pouted. She couldn't argue with Lin Yi and felt wronged. She turned her head and looked out the window, trying not to look at Lin Yi. Yesterday, did you make up a rumor? Tang Yun looked at the scenery outside the window and suddenly remembered that she had something to ask Lin Yi. Yesterday. Lin Yi paused and looked at Tang Yun. He didn't understand what happened yesterday. You. Tang Yun couldn't tell if Lin Yi really didn't know, or if he was pretending. She gritted her teeth and said, You wrote me a love letter. I wrote you a love letter? Lin Yi paused again. He remembered the rumor in school yesterday and smiled bitterly. Am I such a boring person? If I wanted to pursue you, why would I need to make up a rumor? That, although Lin Yi's words were shameless, Tang Yun didn't doubt it this time. Indeed, Lin Yi was right. If he wanted to pursue her, why would he need to make up a rumor? He had already made her mother happy and wanted her to be friends with him. Why would he make up a meaningless rumor? That would only make her angrier. Maybe someone saw it and misunderstood. Lin Yi thought to himself, My little aunt, I'm crazy to make up a rumor. There are 2 misses at home, and I even lost my temper last night. Oh, Tang Yun replied pitifully. She pouted, then next time, don't always look for me, or else people will think that it's true. Ah, it's really a coincidence. Lin Yi was helpless. How could he explain this? Every time was a coincidence. Tang Yun ignored him and sat there quietly with her hand under her chin. The car drove to the food street behind the school. Lin Yi parked the car and opened the car's central lock. Chapter 173. Guaranteed to be genuine. Tang Yin turned around helplessly to look at Lin Yi. My mom wants you to bring a friend to my house this weekend. Huh. Go to your house this weekend? Lin Yi blinked. What for? I don't know. Tang Yin said, subconsciously. She was afraid that Lin Yi would come to her class and ask her for more details. My mom wants you guys to have barbecue. With that, Tang Yin ran towards the school without looking back, leaving Lin Yi with a face full of shock. Where's your house? He knew that Tang Yan's house was in the slums, but the slums were huge. Who knew where Tang Yan's house was? As for why Mrs. Tang had invited him and Kong Xiaobo to barbecue, it was probably because she'd tested the recipe yesterday and found it to be workable. That was why she'd invited Lin Yi and Kong Xiaobo to try it first to show her gratitude. Ah! Lin Yi shook his head and closed the car door, waiting for Ling Shan. Half an hour later, Lin Yi got another call from Ling Shan. Lin Yi, the dean of your school's pretty easygoing. Giving you a leave just like that? Where are you? I'll go find you. The food street behind the school. Lin Yi said. He had Jifeng's weakness in his hands. Of course he'd give him a leave. Plus, Ling Shan had probably told him that it was official business. Jifeng naturally wouldn't stop her from doing stuff like that. Wait for me, I'll be right there. Ling Shan hung up with that, and about 10 minutes later, Lin Yi saw a civilian cheetah SUV with a license plate starting with Songji. The Songji was a civilian license plate that the police had created for convenience, but the number was already known to the public now. There was no difference between a police car and a police car, and a lot of rich and powerful people would even use their connections to get a license plate like this, just so they could enjoy the privilege of being on the road. Ling Shan didn't see Lin Yi when she got to the food street, only seeing a yellow Beetle parked at the roadside. She was just about to give Lin Yi a call when the Beetle's door opened and Lin Yi got out, walking towards her. Your car? Ling Shan looked at Lin Yi's Beetle. According to her investigation, Lin Yi was hired by Peng Zhan to protect Meng Yao. There was a possibility that Lin Yi would be assigned a car, but there was no way he'd get a car like this, was there? This didn't fit the image of Lin Yi's bodyguard at all. It's Yushu's. Lend it to me for a couple of days. Lin Yi didn't hide it. There was a license plate on the car, and Ling Shan could just check the owner if she wanted to. All right, get in then. Ling Shan pointed at the passenger seat. Lin Yi opened the door and got in. Ling Shan started the car and drove to the police station. After a while, Ling Shan saw that Lin Yi wasn't saying anything. She frowned. Aren't you going to say something? Say what? Lin Yi turned to look at Ling Shan, sizing her up. Aren't you the one looking for me? What do you want me to say? Oh, I wanted to say that my leg's healed, and I'm not afraid of you anymore. You can pinch me all you want. You. Ling Shan was a little pissed off. She really didn't know what Captain Yang saw in Lin Yi. Why would he recommend someone like this to her? Lin Yi's shameless words reminded her of the scene in the hospital that day. Bastard, Lin Yi said with a hateful tone. Of course. Lin Yi said faintly as he leaned back on the seat and closed his eyes. Oh. Ling Shan didn't know what to say. Lin Yi's words made her speechless. Can you help me find the bank robber that day? You called me here and you're asking if I can? Lin Yi curled his lips. I really don't know how you got promoted. Other than being a tiger, why don't you have any brains? Ling Shan almost drove the car into the wall. Wasn't this Lin a little too mean? What did he mean by being a tiger? It was true that she was a little impulsive, rushing to the front every time there was a suspect. But that wasn't a tiger, was it? It was just a little more heroic. But Captain Yang had said that she had this shortcoming. She was the leader, and if she rushed to the front every time, wasn't that just being a hero? Actually, Ling Shan didn't really think that much. It was like a war where the commander was the first to rush to the front. It was fine if the commander was a little braver, but if he was careless and got ambushed by the enemy or got injured or even died, then the whole army would be in chaos. Ling Shan understood this after the incident. Fortunately, there weren't any major problems and she had time to change. In actuality, Ling Shan really was thinking wrongly. Lin Yi's tiger wasn't referring to her bravery in every mission. As far as Lin Yi was concerned, if he had the ability and confidence to take out the enemy, then he would do it himself. He wouldn't let his teammates fight with him. After all, if he had the confidence, then there was no need for unnecessary sacrifices. When Lin Yi said that Ling Shan was a tiger, he was actually referring to her carelessness. For example, when her leg was injured. She didn't see it, and when she knew her leg was injured, she still went to massage it. If that wasn't a tiger, then what was? All right, then I hope that with your help, young Master Lin, we'll be able to catch those bank robbers that ran away that day. Ling Shan gritted her teeth and said hatefully, "If we can't catch them, then we'll deal with them later." Huh, let's try. Lin Yi nodded. I can't guarantee anything. Ling Shan really wanted to kick Lin Yi out of the car. If you can't guarantee anything, then what's the point of pretending? Where are you going? Lin Yi asked. To the police station, and then we'll discuss how to catch the suspects. Ling Shan explained. No need. We'll go straight to the area you guys are looking for. Lin Yi shook his head. He knew his strength the best, and discussing wasn't going to work. If those people were really in the area, he'd be able to sense them. If they weren't, then there was no point in discussing. Wah! Ling Shan blinked. Just the two of us. Chapter 174. Sister-in-law and sister-in-law, why wouldn't I dare? Ling Shan knew that Lin Yi was trying to goad her, but she still agreed to it. It was all because of the words Lin Yi said just now. As a former special ops instructor, Ling Shan had nothing to be afraid of. Even if things didn't work out, she'd be able to escape. As for Lin Yi, since he'd asked for it, he couldn't blame anyone else. As far as Ling Shan was concerned, Lin Yi wasn't a bad fighter, but he hadn't gone through professional training and life and death battles. There was still a gap between them. If Lin Yi dared to go, why wouldn't she? Let's go then. Lin Yi didn't care about Ling Shan's reaction. Ling Shan felt like she was playing the lute to a cow. She'd made such a bold statement, and Lin Yi had to at least give her some sort of response. Even a compliment of bravery would do, but Lin Yi didn't say anything at all. According to the surveillance footage we got from the city management, as well as the traffic footage from the main roads, we can confirm that the suspect is hiding in the forest up ahead. Ling Shan said, suppressing her anger. We also found the car nearby, and we found Baldi and Ma Lao's corpses in an abandoned warehouse. Ling Shan explained, suppressing her anger. We also found the robber's car nearby, and we found Baldi and Ma Lao's bodies in an abandoned warehouse. The robbers have a lot of cash in their hands. If they leave this place with the cash, they will definitely be noticed by the nearby checkpoints. So we judged that if the kidnappers care about the money, then they must still be nearby. Oh, in other words, if they throw away the money, they might run away? Lin Yi nodded and asked. You could say that, Ling Shan said. But if we can get the cash back, we'll have solved half of the case and I'll be able to answer to my side. If he's here, I can help you look for him. As for the cash, do you really expect me to find it? Do you think I'm a police dog? Lin, he rolled his eyes. By the way, didn't your captain call himself Hound? You can let him try. Screech. The car screeched to a halt on the side of the road, and both Ling Shan and Lin Yi leaned forward from the inertia. What's wrong with you? Lin Yi frowned, not understanding why Ling Shan would have such a big reaction. Don't you dare insult Captain Yang. If you insult him again, please get off the car. Ling Shan glared at Lin Yi, her eyes spitting fire, as if she wanted to eat Lin Yi alive. She looked exactly like the lioness Lin Yi had described. So this was the reason? Lin Yi didn't know what to say. Ling Shan was protecting Huaijuan like this. Could it be that she liked Huaijuan? You like Huaijuan? Lin Yi asked. Please don't insult the pure sibling relationship between me and Captain Yang. Ling Shan, on the other hand, corrected him with a serious tone. Don't use your dirty thoughts to think about my relationship with Yang Duo. I protect him because I respect and worship him. He's like a teacher. Ever since I entered the police station, he's been teaching me, encouraging me, and watching me grow. Huh. Lin Yi smiled faintly. Then, would you be mad if Huaijuan called you a police dog? Ah, me. Ling Shan paused, not sure why Lin Yi would ask that all of a sudden, but she shook her head. Why would I? Captain Yang's like a teacher to me. Isn't it normal for him to joke around with me? Huh. Lin Yi didn't say anything else. Huaijuan had been the same when he'd first joined the special ops team, and Lin Yi had been guiding him step by step. Their relationship was even deeper than Ling Shan's, and that was the kind of friendship that could only be replaced by that of Huaijuan. It was the kind of friendship that could only be replaced. And so, even if Lin Yi were to point at Huaijuan's nose and scold him, Lin Yi would just smile at him. In fact, Lin Yi used to protect his teammates in front of outsiders, but he didn't hold back when he scolded his teammates in front of his own people. Huaijuan was a big man, and he'd cried in front of Lin Yi, a captain who was younger than him, of course. Lin Yi couldn't tell Ling Shan about this. All right, since you're protecting him, I won't say that anymore. Lin Yi nodded. But you can ask Huaijuan about it later. He doesn't mind me saying that about him, eh? Ling Shan blinked, not understanding what Lin Yi was talking about. Her professional sensitivity had long since made her suspect that there was some secret between Lin Yi and Captain Yang. But because it involved Huaijuan, the person she respected the most, she didn't investigate too much. She believed that Huaijuan was a righteous man and wouldn't associate with bad people. But now, all the signs pointed to the fact that Lin Yi and Captain Yang had a lot of secrets that she didn't know about. She didn't dare ask Huaijuan, but she could ask Lin Yi. She had to get something out of this guy. Ling Shan thought, maybe I'm just too excited. Ling Shan said as she started the car again, her face a lot warmer than before. Lin Yi, you and Captain Yang, do you know each other? Ling Shan started beating around the bush. You could say that, but it was a long time ago. I've pretty much forgotten about him. If he didn't recognize me that day, I wouldn't even remember him. Lin Yi explained calmly, but Ling Shan wouldn't believe him. Forgotten? Huaijuan looked happier than if he'd caught a criminal. How could it be as simple as Lin Yi made it out to be? Ling Shan could tell that the captain was really excited that day. He was even talking a little incoherently. Is that so? Then how did you two meet? Ling Shan asked. Didn't your boss tell you not to ask questions you shouldn't ask? I heard you were a special ops instructor before. You shouldn't be this unruly, right? Lin Yi's one sentence blocked all of Ling Shan's questions. Do we have a confidentiality system? Ling Shan was speechless. What kind of confidentiality was that? You're not from the police force. You're not from the military. What's there to be secretive about? Even if Captain Yang was the captain now, How did you get to know him? You couldn't have anything to do with confidentiality, could you? Don't say it if you don't want to. Ling Shan said, trying to provoke him. It's not like we're on a mission. What's there to be secretive about? Yeah, I'll tell you when you become my sis-in-law or Huaijuan's sister-in-law. Lin Yi said with a smile. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.